Chapter 433. Ping. 7 Kills pulled his hand back just in time. Under the protection of the glove, his hand caught the hidden blade. Stop fooling around. 7 Kills shot a cold glare at him, like he was announcing that he was going to get serious. Shouted pulled on his wrist and snapped the hidden blade in half. He broke free from his opponent's control and slashed with his claws. Bang! This was the sound of fist hitting flesh. However, it sounded more like a moving car had hit a cow. Xiao Tan had just raised his hand when 7 Kills' fist landed on his chest. The punch arrived first, and it was as fast as lightning. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Wang Tanji's mouth, and his body flew backward. At that moment, everyone who was watching the match was silent. They held their breath and looked at the screen, thinking back to that horrifying punch. 7 Kills' punch was not a skill. He had only activated his soul's ultimate punch. The effect of this soul's was simple and direct. It allowed him to throw out the strongest punch that he could. It could be seen as a weakened version of Passing Rain's extreme efficiency. Of course, the weaker the effect, the lower the consumption. After 7 Kills activated ultimate punch, his mental power consumption was naturally not as high as Passing Rain's. A gust of evening wind blew across the wilderness. Xiao Tan fell to the ground. He still had 36% of his life points left. His broken ribs cut through his organs, and he was inflicted with the bleeding effect that could not be removed with bandages. That strike from before had practically shattered his chances of victory. The moment he was hit, Xiao Tan's breathing and blood froze like ice. In his eyes at that moment, time seemed to have stopped. He didn't even feel any pain. He only felt the scenery in his line of sight turn sluggish, and then he floated backwards. When he came back to his senses, he had already fallen to the ground. Only at this moment did the pain that spread throughout his whole body surge up in waves. Fear was so familiar. He had experienced it before. That was a long time ago. He had also fallen to the ground like this, helplessly watching a tall shadow walk toward him. The feeling of déjà vu was so blurry, but so clear 10 years ago, S-City. In an alley, for hooligans in their 20s were ganging up on a junior high school student who was much smaller than them. In the corner of the dead end, there was another boy in a junior high school uniform curled up. It was a slightly chubby child with a face full of freckles. His expression was filled with fear and cowardice. Even though he knew that the violence in front of him was caused by him, he did not dare to say a word. TSK. It seems like there's no reaction anymore. One of the thugs said. Another person continued. You're just a kid in junior high school. How dare you meddle in my business? The youth who had been beaten up was lying on his side on the ground, unable to move. However, he had not completely fainted. Seeing this, the 4 men stopped punching and kicking and took out cigarettes to light. Hey, fatty. One of the thugs turned to the boy in the corner and asked, Do you know him? I don't know him, Fatty replied timidly. Huh. Hearing this, the man kicked the young man on the ground again. Motherf asterisk cur. Was there something wrong with his brain? Did he think that he was a hero? Ha! Phew! His companion next to him blew out a cigarette and said, I've only heard of heroes saving beauties. I've never seen a hero saving a pig. With this remark, the 4 men burst into laughter. A few seconds later, one of them spat on the ground and stepped on the head of the young man on the ground. Kid, you got guts. You actually dared to come over. He pointed at the fatty in the corner with a cigarette in his hand. That kid volunteered to be our ATM. What the F asterisk CK does it have to do with you? It turned out that the beaten young man saw the 4 thugs extorting money and tried to stop them. Yo, wait a minute, I just found out. This kid's shoes are branded. One of them said, This costs more than $1,000 a pair. Let me see, it can't be fake, right? Another person said, Doesn't look like it. That person said, Look at this kid. He's fair and clean. Other than his uniform, everything else on him is branded. He paused for a moment and sneered. Maybe he's the son of a rich family? Oh, a rich second generation? Another person said, Hey, this young master, you must think you're very noble, right? One of the thugs squatted down and grabbed the young man's hair. I despise hypocritical dogs like you the most. He got up and walked a few steps and picked up a rusty iron pipe. Hey, don't kill him. Even his companion was a little panicked. After all, the young man was beaten to the point of shock. If they hit him with a hard object, something bad might happen. Don't worry. That thug picked up the iron pipe and walked toward the young man. He sneered. Mr. Perfect, you like to be a hero and be in the limelight, right? I'll ruin your face today so that you won't be handsome in the future. As he said that, he raised the iron pipe. 5 minutes later, Feng Bujua, wearing the same uniform as Wang Tanji, appeared at the entrance of the alley. He was still muttering, I was left to copy books again. Xiao Tan should have already gone back by himself. As he mumbled to himself, his eyes accidentally wandered down the alley. This one glance almost caused the blood in Feng Bujua's body to flow backward. He saw his best friend Wang Tanji holding an iron pipe and whipping an adult's head. That adult was lying on the ground, his right leg was spasming and twitching, but he didn't make any sound. Perhaps he couldn't make any sound. In the alley, there were 3 other adults lying on the ground. Their faces were all covered in blood, and they were lying motionless on the ground. Their limbs were all strangely bent. It was obvious that they were all broken. Hey! Hey! Feng Bujua shouted as he ran forward. Xiao Tan heard him and raised his head to look at his brother Ju. Feng Bujua still couldn't forget that scene. It was an expression that he had never seen on Wang Tanji's face before. That face was calm and dejected, as if he had seen through the world of mortals. This was not an expression that a young man should have. The blood that splattered on his face hadn't dried yet, but he didn't care, and without any mercy, he continued to swing the iron pipe at a defenseless person's head again and again. Feng Bujua clearly saw that in Wang Tanji's pupils there was a strange red glow. I didn't expect you to force me to use this move. 7 Kills walked toward Xiao Tan. This is a trump card that I prepared for the Battle of the Butterfly. He sighed. It's praiseworthy, but I still have to say, in terms of fighting, I don't think I'll lose to anyone, so I'm sorry. He raised his arm and swung a punch at Xiao Tan, who was lying on the ground. But this punch also hit nothing. 7 Kills was surprised. Can you still move? He raised his head to look for his opponent. Or should I say, you haven't given up yet? Huh? A cold laugh, a strange cold laugh. You don't think you'll lose to anyone in terms of fighting? Xiao Tan's tone changed. It became exceptionally arrogant. Chapter 434. At the same time, in the sky above the desert, 2 figures floated. Naturally, the players could not see the high-dimensional creatures in the sky, and the system's camera could not capture them either. Can you explain the situation in front of you, Mr. Referee? War looked down at the 2 people at his feet and said in his deep voice. Simon, who floated next to him, did not answer but moved his eyes to War. Why that look? Do you want to fight me? War's expression shifted slightly. What do you want me to explain? Simon finally spoke, and this allowed War to sigh in relief. Of course, is the change that is happening to Wang Tanji. Simon's voice was still as cold as a blade. Who knows, some kind of restriction has been broken, so you're giving me a bunch of nonsense. Humph. Fine. I don't care what happened to him. Let's just talk about it. War said. Based on the rules of the bet, the direct descendants of the Wang family and the Gu family are not allowed to bet on them. In other words, they are outsiders. But 7 Kills, he is. Seeing that your chess piece is about to be killed by an outsider, you came to complain to the judge? Simon interrupted. If you are unwilling to accept it, War said, I can do it on your behalf. Simon laughed. He rarely laughed, so this was not a good sign. Since the beginning of this bet, I have killed many stars in the name of the referee, from the angels to the demons at the crossroads. He paused for a second. Do you want to be the first sacrifice under the banner of the Parliament? War was silent for a few seconds like he was weighing something. Then he said, Watch your words, demon. I'm not your subordinate. There was a strange rhythm to his voice, like there was something else that was speaking inside the human shell. I'm the source of your warlike nature. No matter how strong you are, you will not be able to kill a knight. Do you know how many existences that call themselves immortal I have killed so far? Simon replied calmly. Of course I know. You are the resting symbol of eternity, the crusher of life, War said. But I stand by my point. You can keep your point of view, Simon said. As long as you don't cross the line. You mean you want me to watch this outsider eliminate 7 kills? Simon exhaled and looked down again. Misfortune may be a blessing in disguise. Oh, War was slightly taken aback. Could there be something in the finals? Risks and benefits are proportional, Simon interrupted again. The tournament for the best isn't as simple as you think. That's strange. What's with that arrogant and battle-thirsty expression? 7 kills looked at Xiao Tan, who was a few meters away, and thought to himself, Brother Wang doesn't seem like such a person. Internal bleeding. Xiao Tan mumbled to himself. My life points dropped to 29% in the blink of an eye. He straightened up, picked up a knife, and said coldly, I'll finish you in 1 minute. Oh, huh. 7 kills laughed when he heard that and replied, I really have no idea where your confidence comes from. If you really can do it, then give it a try. Xiao Tan did not say anything else. He stepped on the ground and leaped into the air. He drew a parabola in the air and charged at his opponent. My speed is only slightly slower than his, but my strength is much greater than his. 7 kills analyzed the situation. With Soul's Eye, I can increase the speed and power of my punches by at least 3 times. Other than that, I have far more combat experience and fighting skills than he does. He calmed down. There can't be any other variables. He's just bluffing. 7 kills looked at Xiao Tan, who was leaping at him, and growled, Humph, this kind of normal lunge is no different from a sandbag swinging at me. He raised his fist and punched mercilessly. At that moment, Xiao Tan's descending body suddenly changed direction and leaped upward. 7 kills scoffed. Do you think I won't be able to hit you like that? His punch suddenly changed from a straight punch to an uppercut. Even though his punch was unable to touch Xiao Tan, the punch shot upward like an invisible cannon. However, the punch hit another illusion. In that second, the shadow in the air split into 2. The illusion flew upward while the real body flew downward. Xiao Tan used 3 skills in 2 seconds. Using the combination of doppelganger and the mantra, he created a very dangerous attack. With a flash, the knife lashed out. 7 kills' reaction was shockingly fast. He raised his right forearm to block the stiletto that was aimed at his neck. With a clang, there was a flash of fire. Then came the sound of bone breaking. How is this possible? 7 kills' steel gauntlet was not broken, but the powerful force from the chop had broken his forearm. What is this power? 7 kills was shocked. He thought to himself, his ribs must have been broken already. A normal attack can't be stronger than before. This must be a skill. Every skill has a cooldown time and energy consumption. This kind of heavy attack cannot be repeated. Ugh! Clang, clang, clang. Xiao Tan moved his hands and started to attack again. The 2 blades crossed and danced, creating many illusions and layers of light. His technique at this moment was absolutely amazing. As the cold blade rose and slashed, it was as if there were 2 assassins, one with a military knife in his hand and the other with a claw blade on his wrist, attacking from both sides. Qisha turned pale with fright. Ignoring the fact that his right arm was broken, he could only endure the pain and throw out 2 punches, blocking and retreating. As the 2 weapons clashed, there were bursts of fighting spirit. In less than 10 seconds, 7 kills was already in danger. He was shocked. What is this? This is no longer a fighting technique. Is this the legendary 2-handed fighting technique? And this sudden increase in strength is not decreasing at all? Xiao Tan, on the other hand, had a blank expression on his face like he was doing something very easy and normal. Seeing that his opponent was losing, he leaned his body forward and took half a step forward. His left hand gathered the whirlwind blade, and his right hand slashed horizontally. They were a combination of skills, and it was a deadly move. At this point in the fight, 7 kills had also gathered his strength. He gave up on defending and leaped into the air. His spinning figure stirred up a turbulent wind. He used his fists to attack. He exhausted all his stamina and used both hands to perform the killer move, Storm Wave Break. Xiao Tan, on the other hand, used a strange movement. He leaned back and stepped on the rock. Like a sparrow hawk, he used reverse spinning slash and shadow soul chase at the same time. When the two extreme moves collided, the wind and clouds were immediately blown away. The formless energy that spread out in all directions was vast and mighty. It rumbled and rumbled like a frenzied storm, causing numerous cracks to appear on the surrounding rocks. Several seconds later, the dust settled and the sound of fighting died down. Only the dripping of blood could be heard. 7 Kills knelt on one knee, and his body was covered in blood. He gritted his teeth and tried to stand up, but when he tried to push himself up, the wounds on his body burst open, and blood mist filled the air. Looking from above, it looked like a blood-red flower blooming in the wasteland. Intense pain surged through Qisha's heart. Soon, he lost his last bit of strength. His spirit, qi, and soul had all dissipated. The result was clear. At that moment, Xiao Tan was standing before his opponent. When 7 Kills' blood splashed on his face, his expression did not change. Since his awakening, other than the loss of life points due to internal bleeding, he had not suffered any damage from his opponent. When he exchanged blows with 7 Kills, each of his attacks was faster, stronger, and more accurate. The remaining power of the blades in his hands was enough to break 7 Kills' tendons and cut his bones, and 7 Kills' attacks were either deflected or scattered. See, it's less than a minute. Xiao Tan put away his blades and said the last line of the battle. Just as he finished speaking, 7 Kills turned into white light and disappeared. At that moment, everyone who was watching the live stream was stunned. Only one person was still staring with his dead fish eyes. He mumbled, "Looks like something very troublesome has happened." Chapter 435. Xiao Tan, who had won, immediately logged off after being teleported out of the scenario. Passing Rain and Laughing Soul naturally thought that Xiao Tan's behavior was rather strange. However, Feng Bujue, who knew a thing or two about the situation, said in a firm tone, "I know what I'm doing. I'll log off to deal with it now. Tomorrow, I'll give you a detailed explanation." Then, Brother Ju returned to the login lobby and chose Log Off and Wake Up. Of course, after something like that happened, Passing Rain and Laughing Soul did not have the mood to continue playing. They logged off to rest as well. 2 minutes later, in the real world, Feng Bujue's home. The gaming hub's cover was pulled open, and Brother Ju sat up. He scratched the messy hair on his head and climbed out of the gaming pod. Phew, should I make a phone call? He hesitated for a second. No, let's just go to his house. It's better to talk to him face to face. Brother Ju mumbled to himself and prepared to change. You're not allowed to go anywhere. A voice suddenly rang out. At that moment, Feng Bujue's first reaction was a burglar had broken into his house. At that moment, all the lights in the room were off, and only a few parts of the gaming hub were shining. Feng Bujue could not see where the person was, but this was his home. Based on his hearing, he knew that the person was sitting on the sofa. Feng Bujue did not hesitate and shot out like an arrow. He lowered his body and rushed toward the kitchen. He. I don't think it's a good idea to go get a knife. The person on the sofa laughed wickedly. When Feng Bujue heard that sinister laugh, his body froze. His brain turned quickly, and in a second, he remembered where he had heard this voice before. You are. Brother Ju turned his head. That game manager? Pa! Woody snapped his fingers, and the lights in the living room came on. I've never admitted that I'm the game manager. Woody laughed. That is just your speculation, and it's wrong. Feng Bujue looked at the four-eyed man in the suit and was silent for 2 seconds before asking, How did you get in? What do you want? Interesting. Woody laughed. You didn't ask me how I got your address, but directly asked me how I got in. This means that you already have a theory about how I got your information. I've never expected the game companies to respect their users' privacy as they promised. Feng Bujue said, even if the information is controlled by the Photon computer, the personal information that I filled in on the forum was backed up by the Dream Company, right? Yes, I know that you don't trust any third-party platform, including trading websites, delivery companies, hotel chains, telecommunications, and even government agencies. Woody continued, but please believe me, the Dream Company will definitely respect the privacy of the players. Your information will not be leaked through us. Oh, then I want to ask, how did you find my house? When Feng Bujua said this, he had already walked to the sofa. The answer is in your mind. Woody pushed his glasses up. Think about what I told you last time. You don't need to tell me about the images and sounds that exist in your memory. I've digested them a minute ago. This sentence flashed across Feng Bujua's mind. He laughed coldly. Humph, you're trying to say that you can read other people's memories? You don't believe me? Woody said, if I can't, then may I ask, how did I know that Wang Tanji killed someone 10 years ago? Feng Bujua's expression changed suddenly. Countless hypotheses flew through his mind. Your mind is very fast, but it's still not out of the ordinary. Woody said, if you can acknowledge the existence of supernatural forces, our conversation will go much smoother. He tilted his head and laughed again. In that case, the question of how did this four-eyed man turn on the light can be temporarily removed from your thinking queue. Understand, your company's gaming cabin can completely steal the player's memory information. Feng Bujua was still using the standard reasoning of common sense to make his deduction. You still haven't given up on using science to explain it? Woody turned his head. Then, Arthas, how about you come over and say something? This kind of silly name given by a silly young man. Only a silly boss like you would use it. Arthas walked over from the corner of the room. It was really talking, and it was actually a young woman's voice. Feng Bujua's mind temporarily short-circuited for 2 seconds. He looked at Woody again. Ventriloquism. I can't make my voice that sharp, Woody said. Arthas jumped onto the sofa, climbed to the edge of the backrest, and lay down. I know, you're going to deduce that I have a microphone or something on me. It paused for a moment. But if you dare to take the opportunity to touch anything other than my head, I'll tear you into pieces. You're a male cat. A male cat. Feng Bujua really went crazy this time. No, this is not right, Humph. This is most likely a prank from the TV station. The light must have been tampered with. The cat's body or the collar is hiding. Psst. Woody's finger gently moved in the air. In the next second, one of Feng Bujua's legs was neatly cut off from a thigh. With a thump, Brother Ju's leg fell to the ground, and the man himself was stunned for 2 seconds with a face as white as ash. Then he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Don't worry, this is called dimensional cutting. Look, you're not bleeding at all, and you don't feel any pain. Woody laughed. Then, how do you explain this? Magic? Hypnosis? Or did you accidentally consume a large amount of marijuana? Feng Bujua raised his head and looked at his severed leg. He actually saw a complete cross-section. Marrow, bones, blood vessels, muscles, fat, skin, those things were still moving, and there was no blood flowing out from the cross-section. The same thing happened to the other half of his thigh. Do you want to study it for a while longer? Or do you want me to reattach your leg immediately? Woody asked. Reattach it. Feng Bujua calmed down. Woody snapped his fingers, and Brother Ju's severed leg flew back to its owner's body. Even his torn pajama pants were restored to its original state. Sit down and talk. Woody gestured for him to sit. Feng Bujua narrowed his eyes and stared at Woody. He slowly walked to the opposite side and sat down. So, vampires, zombies, ghosts, Buddha, these are all real? Why do the 4 items you mentioned feel so out of place? Arthas complained. Some of them are real. Woody replied. And some, are made up by you humans. Oh, Feng Bujua's mind was a little confused. Then, I remember you said, you came from hell? Yes, Woody replied. You also said, Feng Bujua tried hard to recall every word he said the last time they met. Where you come from is where I will go, what? Do you think you can go to heaven after you die? Woody asked. That's not it. Feng Bujua said, it's just, I want to confirm that I didn't go there recently, right? You're worried about the shadow in your mind, aren't you? Woody laughed. Haven't you noticed? When I was in the same room with you, You already regained your fear. Hearing that, Feng Bujue's face paled. He suddenly had a thought, a scary speculation. He looked up at Woody and asked in a low voice, "Did you do something to my brain?" "Ah, yes or no," Woody mumbled in an ambiguous tone. "Okay, I know you have a lot of questions." He paused for a second. "But I might not answer." He laughed sinisterly again. "Let's talk about the most important question at hand." He said a name word by word, Wang Tanji. Chapter 436. Are you trying to tell me that Xiao Tan is essentially a monster or something? Feng Bujue asked. Very good. After accepting the supernatural setting, your way of thinking has suddenly opened up. Woody laughed. But your guess is wrong. Then what is it? Multiple personality disorder? Feng Bujue continued. No. Woody replied. It should be said that it is a self-protection mechanism of the soul, a kind of power that he can't fully control yet. Oh, then this mechanism you mentioned, will it cause amnesia? Feng Bujue asked again. Of course not, Woody said. That's strange. Feng Bujue muttered. I remember, the day after that incident, Xiao Tan's family helped him apply for a week's leave and took him away from City S. Just when I thought they were going to abscond permanently. A week later, Xiao Tan came back to school as if nothing had happened. He paused. After that, I tested him a few times. He had obviously forgotten everything that happened in the alley. I also went to talk to his parents. They only said Xiao Tan had already forgotten about it, and that they should not mention it again. They were right, because Wang Tanji's memory has indeed been isolated, Woody replied. Feng Bujue was stunned for a moment and speculated. So, he was taken abroad to be brainwashed. That's not the case. Woody said, it's just that Wang Tanji's parents were worried about their son's situation, so they took him to Dubai and asked his grandfather to help deal with it. His grandfather is a magician? Feng Bujue asked. Woody seemed to have hit a funny spot and laughed out loud. He used to be. The more he laughed, the happier he became. He even slapped his thigh. Sigh. They all call themselves geniuses, but they usually act like idiots. Arthas looked at her boss from the sofa and sighed. I'm sorry. Woody stopped laughing after a long time. I thought of something very interesting. Let me summarize. Feng Bujue said. My best friend who grew up with me, a tall, handsome, rich man with a decent job. He has some amazing supernatural power hidden in his body, and his family knew about it, but didn't take it seriously. That's because this has been a common occurrence since his grandfather's generation. Yeah, Woody replied. Feng Bujue took a deep breath. Well, I think some of the problems that have been troubling me for years have been solved. Woody continued. Are you referring to the cover-up of the murder case? He shrugged. I was in charge of covering it up, so of course it was flawless. You did it. Feng Bujue thought for a few seconds. No wonder the media didn't report this at all. I knew it, for people died. How could he? If it wasn't me, who else could it be? Woody laughed. And are you sure only 4 people died at that time? As soon as he said this, Feng Bujue felt a chill run down his spine. His expression changed slightly. Yes, I also took care of the eyewitnesses. Woody said. This case was closed as 4 gangsters fighting, involving passers-by, and finally, the 5 of them died together. Are the police also under your control? Feng Bujue said. And how could the families of the victims accept this result? I'm the devil. I have a lot of ways, Woody said. Anyway, compared to what you did, it's more effective. Feng Bujue just snorted and didn't say anything, because he had done something similar in the past. That day, in the alley, Brother Ju's appearance helped Xiao Tan regain his sanity, but the latter immediately fainted. Therefore, the whole mess was left to Feng Bujue. Brother Ju first calmly observed the situation in front of him. Then he went to check the pulse of the 4 gangsters. After confirming that all 4 of them were dead, he simply ignored the dead bodies and walked to the little fat man squatting in the corner of the alley. He began to ask about the situation just now. With the help of threats, lies, and slaps, Brother Ju managed to get the details of what had happened from the witness, who was already scared out of his mind. Then, he was faced with a major choice. Calling the police was undoubtedly the right choice. If he let the police handle this, what happened next would have nothing to do with him. Just like countless detectives said, our duty is to find out the truth. We have no right to decide the life and death of others. But Fong Bujue made another choice. He threatened the witness. He used his reasoning ability to quickly tell the witness's school, grade, and even where he lived. He also used a serious and cold tone to threaten him with violence and death. You also hate them, right? You want them dead, right? Do you think anyone will believe your words? If my friend and I testify that you killed them, it seems more believable, right? After the threat, it was time to guide the witness. This was the only way to make the witness follow his train of thought. This was the only way to make the witness believe that following what the person in front of him said was the only way out. Soon, Fong Bujue forced the witness to write down a set of statements about the internal strife between the four gangsters. After confirming that the witness did not dare to call the police, he let him go. Then, he began to clean up the scene and clean up the evidence. He erased all the bloody palm prints on the iron rod and imprinted the fingerprints of the deceased on it. He took off the clothing of the deceased, who was wearing a leather jacket, and cleaned the collar, cuffs, and hem of the jacket where fingerprints could easily be found. Then, he covered up the fingerprints of the deceased and threw them aside. He carefully erased all the footprints left behind by himself and Xiao Tan, as well as the palm prints on the ground. He even damaged the corpses a second time, further increasing the impact of the fractures to disrupt the autopsy. When Fong Bujue was serious about something, his ability to execute and plan was very strong. The whole process only took him 5 minutes. Finally, he took off his school uniform and put on Xiao Tan's jacket. He carried him on his back and walked out of the alley with the 2 backpacks. In order to avoid the surveillance cameras on the nearby streets, he deliberately took 2 more alleys and passed through a residential area. Then, Brother Bujue stopped a taxi and sent Xiao Tan home. It was not a long journey, and Fong Bujue's school uniform had covered up the blood and stains on Xiao Tan's body, so the driver did not suspect anything. In less than 10 minutes, the 2 of them arrived at Xiao Tan's house. Xiao Tan's house was in a high-end neighborhood. Fong Bujue had been there several times before. He called Xiao Tan's parents over through the walkie-talkie. First, he asked them to pay the taxi fare. Brother Bujue's pocket money was very little back then. Second, he asked them to help carry Xiao Tan's body. What you did could indeed interfere with the police's investigation to a certain extent, but it was far from enough, Woody said. You should know this very well. Yeah, even if I consciously avoided the surveillance cameras on the street when I left the alley, I couldn't guarantee that they weren't captured before they entered the alley. Fong Bujue said. After all, I was still a junior high school student at that time. Even if I could come up with a few plans to sneak into the local police station and destroy the video files, it would be difficult to implement them. He spread his hands. Of course, what worried me the most was the witness. It was only a matter of time before he told the truth. So, at the end of the day, everything you did could only delay the progress of the investigation. Woody continued, but that's all you needed to do, because you know that Wang Tanji's family has a certain background. As long as they have time, they could do a lot of things, whether it's legal or illegal. Actually, I was already prepared at that time. I was waiting for the police to come and take me to assist in the investigation. Fong Bujue said. During that time, I watched the news every day, but there was no news at all. I originally speculated that Xiao Tan's family was the mediator, but after thinking about it, I felt that it was unlikely. After all, this was not a small case. It wasn't until today that I found out the truth. I have a question. Woody pushed on his glasses and tossed a curious look at Brother Ju. If you have enough power and can be like me to ensure that nothing goes wrong, would you go and kill the witness to help your friend get away with the crime? How could that be possible? Fong Bujue answered quickly. I helped Xiao Tan cover up the evidence because I believed in him. I believed that his intention was legitimate self-defense. He said with a righteous expression, but if you want me to kill him, this involves another life. That witness has no grudge against me, and I have never met him. We can tell that you're lying. Arthas interrupted Brother Bujua's nonsense. TSK, why didn't you say so earlier? Phone Bujua's tone immediately became lazy and casual. Since I've decided to do it, of course, I have to do it flawlessly and eliminate the root of the problem. Well said. Woody praised him. You're really that kind of person. Oh, what kind of person am I? Phone Bujua laughed. You're the kind of person, deep down, you view morality and the law as worthless. You always apply your own unique standards to things. Woody continued gloomily. You're the kind of person, you must be restrained by strict laws and regulations. You're the kind of person, once you gain the power to break common sense, the consequences will be unimaginable. Your last two sentences are applicable to most humans, right? Phone Bujua said. Everyone wants to do whatever they want, right? He tilted his head. As for the first sentence, why don't you just say that I have antisocial tendencies? He. Very good. Woody said. A conversation between villains should be more explicit. Then I'll ask you a few questions in a more direct way, Phone Bujua said. First of all, Shouten should be fine now, right? You don't have to worry about him. Woody pointed at the clock on the wall. Because he hasn't been answering the phone, so 2 minutes ago, Gu Xiaoling drove to his house. He laughed for a while. She can handle such a small situation. Phone Bujua continued. Could be that Gu Xiaoling is also, Don't worry, she's human, Woody said. She's not under my jurisdiction. Phone Bujua muttered. I mean, among the people I know, how many abnormal humans are there? No comment, Woody replied. Phone Bujua sneered. Then let's talk about me. He raised his hand and tapped his temple with his index and middle finger. What did you do to my brain? Do you still need to ask? I sealed your fear, Woody replied. Why? Phone Bujua asked again. Why? Ha. Woody repeated the question and then laughed again. You don't want to answer this question? Phone Bujua asked. Woody shrugged. It's not time to tell you yet. He seemed to have suddenly remembered something. Oh, but you can rest assured that this is not some physiological incurable disease. Your life is not in danger for the time being. Phone Bujua laughed dryly. His face was full of displeasure. This is really exciting news. He. Perhaps this news will make you a little happier. Woody continued. You're not the only one who has been sealed. Oh, who else? Phone Bujua said in a cold tone. The corners of Woody's lips curled up as he read out the name. Li Ruoyu. Phone Bujua's eyes changed. He was silent for a few seconds before saying, No, you're lying. She can feel fear. He. I didn't say her sealed emotion was fear, Woody replied. Phone Bujua's expression tensed. He tried to recall every moment when he was with her. He tried to recall her words and actions, but he couldn't find any clues. You won't be able to guess, Woody said. Even she doesn't know the existence of a seal. He smiled. Li Ruoyu's seal was set not long after she was born. Because it's a baby's brain, it's easier to deal with it. Doing something to an adult's brain might cause a shadow, but her seal can't be seen by human medical equipment. Poof! Phone Bujua suddenly stood up and threw a punch at Woody's face. Ha. Woody's cheeks were heavily slapped, but he merely pushed up his glasses and laughed nonchalantly. Last time I told you, when we meet again, you'll be very angry. Look at that. I think my finger is broken. Phone Bujua looked down at his right fist. If our conversation can return to a rational and harmonious atmosphere, Woody said, I can consider helping you heal your hand. Phone Bujua glared at Woody with his dead fish eyes as he returned to his seat. After sitting down, he raised his right hand and gave the man the middle finger. Woody didn't mind. He snapped his fingers and helped Phone Bujua heal the wound on his hand. You must think that people like us who treat humans like toys are very despicable, right? Woody said, but have you ever considered what kind of relationship do you have with the NPCs, monsters, and anomalies in the game? Do you think the existence from a higher dimension would care about the feelings of those from a lower dimension? Would you care about a normal zombie in a game? Would you consider what was his name before he was infected, what was his job, and whether he had a wife, a child, and parents waiting for him? Feng Bujua didn't answer. He had indeed considered these questions, but he couldn't get the answer. Or rather, he didn't want to think too deeply about it. That's just one of the problems you humans face. Woody smiled. You don't have to worry too much about it. You don't want to tell me the reason behind the seal, Feng Bujua said. Then at least tell me, what is the emotion behind her seal? What is it? Woody raised his head and sighed. It is a strong emotion that comes from the heart. It is an emotion that cannot be explained by any science. It is poetic and full of fantasy. It is something that will be carved into one's bones and engraved in one's mind. It will make one go crazy. It will make one throw their fists at an opponent that they cannot defeat without caring about anything else. Love, is it? Feng Bujua interrupted him. It is different from fear. The inability to fall in love with others will not be noticed by oneself. Bingo! Woody shouted. You purposely told me this information. Feng Bujua said. Woody said directly. Of course, it is to make a deal with you. What's the deal? Brother Ju asked. You help me with something. After the deal is done, not only will I remove your seal, I will remove hers as well, Woody said. You make it sound like removing her seal will benefit me greatly. Feng Bujua grumbled. Hee. Woody's glasses flashed white. You can say whatever you want. Feng Bujua asked again. Then what do you want me to do? The goal in the near future is, Woody said, put away your sloppy attitude and do your best in the Battle of the Butterfly, and then enter the final stage of the tournament for the best. By the way, Feng Bujua interrupted. I was about to ask you, what exactly is this game? I don't need to tell you that Thriller Paradise is not just a game. Woody interrupted him. The things that it can decide and the role that you will play are all incredibly important. His expression was serious. Feng Bujua, you are no more normal than the other three from Underworld Frontline. I have my reasons for placing my bet on you, so don't disappoint me. Okay. Feng Bujua said. Then what will happen after I enter the top 50? Stop her, Woody replied. Stop who? No one answered this question because before Brother Ju finished, Woody suddenly disappeared like he was never there. Only Arthas was still lying on the edge of the sofa. It yawned like it could read Feng Bujua's mind. It opened its mouth to say, no, this is not a dream. Chapter 437. This Batman-style exit. Feng Bujua muttered. He just teleported. Arthas continued. Speaking of which, Feng Bujua shifted his gaze to Arthas. What exactly are you? Biologically, I am now a male cat, Arthas replied. Is there a possibility that, under certain circumstances, you will become a sexy and shameless domineering lady? Feng Bujua asked tentatively. Hee. Arthas responded with a sneer. Feng Bujua shrugged. All right, then what is your true form? I am a pure energy creature that transcends dimensions, Arthas replied. Similar to the soul of you humans, but the structure is different. May I know your name? Feng Bujua asked. You don't need to know, Arthas said. Arthas said, didn't you already give this cat a name? Then just use it. Then should I call you Mr. Arthas or Ms. Arthas? Feng Bujua asked. There's no need for a specific title, Arthas replied. Feng Bujua nodded. Oh, all right, Arthas, can you explain, so far, the excrement that you've placed? What's with the obvious trap nature? Of course it's a prank, Arthas replied while licking its paws. Feng Bujua's eyes twitched. Since we've already talked about it, I have a suggestion. How about you use the toilet directly in the future? Yeah, cat litter is indeed not very comfortable, Arthas replied. Yeah. Feng Bujua nodded. Also, I'll take a shower myself in the future, Arthas added. Oh, that's another piece of good news for me, Feng Bujua said with a smile. I don't want to eat cat food anymore. If you like it, you can treat it as a snack. Arthas continued. I see that your culinary skills are not bad. From tomorrow onwards, prepare meals for me according to the standard of cooking for the guests. I want to eat 7 meals a day, more or less. You can arrange it according to the situation. As expected, it began to push its luck. Hey, I'm the master. What do you mean by treating your servants like this? Feng Bujua said unhappily. We can no longer return to the relationship between master and pet. Arthas stretched out its front paw and jumped onto the sofa. It turned around lazily. You have to be responsible for this. You didn't fulfill your duty as a pet in the first place, did you? Now you become even worse. Fong Bujua said. By the way, why did you sneak into my house? Mainly surveillance. Arthas's ears twitched, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. When necessary, I can also protect you. It yawned again. Haha, but you're really quite cute. You usually look a little cold, but you're actually very compassionate. I acted a little cute and was successfully adopted. Oomph. When you go to hell, no one wants you. Come and be my pet. Sister will love you dearly. Do you believe that I'll poison your food to kill you? Fong Bujua narrowed his eyes and replied coldly. Arthas raised one of its front paws. Do you believe that I can crush your knee with this cute meatball? I don't believe it, Fong Bujua replied. Whoosh, a silent gust of wind swept past. Brother Ju turned his head to look. There was a huge paw print on the wall of the living room. The paint on the wall didn't fall off at all, and there wasn't much movement either. However, the dent was quite obvious. It felt like a palm print that was heavily pressed on a plasticine. With a thud, Brother Ju knelt down. I'm wrong. My king, please don't be angry. Arthas used its front paws to stroke Fong Bujua's head affectionately. That's right. It paused for a moment. Oh, there's one more thing. It's about me, and Woody. I'll keep my mouth shut, Fong Bujua interrupted. You're smart. Arthas yawned. I'm going to rest. Don't bother me. Huh. Cats need to sleep for a long time. So annoying. Meow meow. When said the last few words, it had already closed its eyes. May 22nd, noon. Fong Bujua had just served lunch to Queen Arthas when the walkie-talkie at the door rang. He walked over and pressed the answer button. Wang Tanji's face appeared on the screen. It's me, Xiaotan said. Come up. Fong Bujua responded and pressed the switch on the walkie-talkie. In less than 2 minutes, Xiaotan arrived at Brother Ju's door. Fong Bujua opened the door and let him in. Brother Ju, Arthas is lying on the table, eating your food. Xiaotan saw this strange scene as soon as he entered the house. Ha! I love animals. Fong Bujua laughed dryly. Why is there such a big cat paw print on the wall? Xiaotan asked again. Oh, a few days ago, I suddenly had an idea to decorate the room, but I accidentally damaged the wall. So I simply enlarged the damage area and made it look like this. Fong Bujua had already thought of this excuse in the 2 minutes when Arthas went upstairs. He said it in a methodical manner, and it matched his personality. It did not arouse any suspicion. Oh, Xiaotan responded. Tell me. Fong Bujua quickly changed the topic. You came to find me during mealtime. Don't tell me you're here to freeload off me, he said and pointed to the sofa. The two had a good tacit understanding. Without saying much, they walked over and sat down together. Well, you should have guessed what I'm going to say, Xiaotan said. Of course. Fong Bujua continued. This morning, some old memories suddenly popped up in your mind, right? Yeah. Xiaotan nodded. Fong Bujua continued. It's been so long. Don't tell me you're thinking of turning yourself in? He said in an indifferent tone. I personally think, even if you do turn yourself in, the police will only treat you as a lunatic. Obviously, many years ago, the truth of this case was covered up by some kind of extreme force. Brother Bujua, Xiaotan said very seriously, do you think it's okay for me to do this? He looked up at Fong Bujua. Even if I can avoid being punished by the law, it's still for lives. His eyes changed slightly. All these years, have you never been afraid of me? I kill them with my bare hands. You're asking the wrong person. Fong Bujua interrupted him. My conscience has already been fed to the cat. He glanced at Arthas. Arthas ignored him completely and continued to eat. Fong Bujua smiled and continued. If I thought there was something wrong with this, you would have been arrested a long time ago. I could have called the police immediately after the incident. He put his hands behind his head. I'm not a good person. I don't think there's an absolute standard for judging a person's good or bad, whether the 4 delinquents deserve to die or not. I'm not interested in delving into it because I don't care. I just made a decision that I won't regret when I was faced with a choice. I decided to do my best to help my friends, that's all. As for the consequences of this decision, I was already mentally prepared. The worst result would be your whole family fleeing overseas, and I would be summoned by the police. Ha! But whether it's testimony or evidence, I didn't leave any evidence behind. Plus, I was a minor at the time, so nothing would happen to me. But you're different. According to the way the 4 people died, I'm afraid no one would believe that you acted in self-defense. If someone really believed it, then you'd probably be arrested and sent to the Research Institute to be research material. In short, I made the decision after considering many factors. Thank you. Xiao Tan interrupted Feng Bujue's narration. He knew that Brother Bujue was about to start praising himself. What are you thanking me for? Feng Bujue asked. I don't know, Xiao Tan replied. After so many years, I don't know how many things I have to thank you for. His gratitude was sincere, but the response he got was, Oh, you don't have to worry about that. Feng Bujue said, I have a good memory. I'll make a list for you. Chapter 438. On the morning of May 23rd, the 5th and final round of the Battle of the Cocoon began. At this stage of the competition, the element of accidental advancement was almost negligible. Every player that remained was undoubtedly a powerhouse. Wang Tanji's opponent this round was a professional player from Brahmin. Even though this man was not as strong as the 4 heavenly kings of Brahmin, he was not to be trifled with. His ability was no weaker than a superstar player. Not long after the random allocation, this match was selected by the Dream Company as the Battle of the Round. It was broadcasted on the main screen of the shopping mall and streamed in thousands of shopping malls. Feng Bujue had already predicted this because the ID Wang Tanji had been discussed on the forum for a whole day. Even though it was not as sensational as Brother Ju when the VIP list was announced, it still attracted a lot of attention. A nameless player was able to eliminate 7 kills, who was ranked 16th on the combat ranking. Who was this person? Which studio was he from? What kind of method did he use? What mastery did he train in? Once again, rumors started to spread. Many players who knew Xiao Tan and even more players who did not know Xiao Tan popped up and started to comment on the situation. The video of Xiao Tan's past matches also gained a lot of clicks. Other than the match where he was given a bye, the other 3 matches became the focus of discussion. At this time, no one questioned Xiao Tan's ability anymore. The fact that he was given a bye seemed to have become unimportant. Looking back, in Wang Tanji's 3 matches, 2 of them were one-hit kills. He did not even need a second strike to kill someone, and the match between him and 7 kills was even more impressive. Especially the last-minute battle. It was undeniably the best in the game. In conclusion, it was only natural that Xiao Tan's 5th match would be broadcasted on the main screen. However, the process of this match was not as exciting as people expected, because the 2 of them had only fought for 3 minutes from beginning to end, and the winner had already been decided. Wang Tanji won without a ripple. He won so easily that the process looked rather boring. There were even a lot of people who suspected that his opponent was too weak. However, there were also a small number of people who saw something different from this match. The top players in the game had already listed Wang Tanji as one of the opponents that they did not want to meet the most. At 2 a.m. on the 23rd, the Battle of Cocoon officially came to an end. The top 100 of the first tournament for the best was officially announced. 90 contestants and 10 seeded contestants were on the list. The Battle of the Butterfly would begin on the morning of the 25th of May. It would also take place in sleeping mode. There was only 1 round in this stage, and the 50 winners would enter the final stage, the tournament for the best. The biggest difference between Battle of the Butterfly and Battle of the Cocoon was that the list of participants would be decided in advance and announced. Although the basis of the match was random, the difference between being random in advance and being random in the queue was like heaven and earth. The list of participants was announced in the morning of the 23rd, which meant that the players had 48 hours to prepare before the Battle of the Butterfly began. In this period of time, the participants or the teams behind the participants could do many things. For example, they could investigate the opponent's information, study the opponent's battle videos, or acquire equipment or skills that targeted the opponent. This kind of arrangement naturally caused quite a stir among the players. The forum was once again filled with panic. Many conspiracy theorists became active again, pointing out that this was the dream company helping the studio to scam the casual players who had no money and no power. It was undeniable that Feng Bujue, as a casual player, was indeed at a disadvantage under these rules. And the most troublesome thing was that he had to win. Firstly, he had the halo of a VIP player above his head, and he was the target of everyone. If he was defeated in a single battle, it would be hard for him to avoid being ridiculed. Secondly, he could be considered as Woody's subordinate for the time being, and he was a true member of Underworld Frontline, the Vanguard of Darkness. If he couldn't even complete the first step of this first mission, it would be too much. Therefore, Brother Ju was quite focused on this competition. But the actual situation was much more serious than he expected. This was because Feng Bujue's opponent in Battle of the Butterfly was also a VIP player, Su Huaishang. As mentioned earlier, even though this Su Huaishang was anonymous on the combat stat ranking, that didn't affect her identity as a celebrity player. The reason behind this, however, would be explained in detail. First, she was a beauty, a real beauty in real life. Second, she was a professional player and the #1 player from Red Cherry. Based on these 2 points alone, it was normal for her to be famous. No matter what era it was, the term beauty player would always attract attention. Of course, normally speaking, people didn't have high expectations for the gaming skills of these so-called beauty players, but Su Huaishang was different. She was the first female player to win an international competition. It was hard to say whether there would be no one like her in the future, but in any case, she was definitely the first in history. Before joining Thriller Paradise, Su Huaishang was already a superstar in the gaming world. In terms of popularity, Drunken Dream from Regulation and the 4 Heavenly Kings from Brahmin had to step aside. Jiang, whose Laughing Blade, and the Hyodii Coward were nothing more than dust. In terms of looks, Yama, who was also a female player, was no weaker than Su Huaishang. She looked quite good in real life as well. But standing next to Su Huaishang, she was basically a passerby. With Su Huaishang's qualifications, she was more than qualified to enter the film industry. There are already several famous talent agencies that tried to sign her. Many experienced talent scouts stated clearly that with her appearance and presence, she could be the next Bond girl in the bag. She could be the female lead, and the audience would pay the bill, even if she was just a pretty face. But Su Huaishang chose to develop herself in the gaming industry. Even though the income of being a celebrity player was much lower than being a celebrity, even though it was hard for a female to make a name for herself in this industry, she didn't care. With her absolute strength, she won many accolades and became a recognized top player. Perhaps it was because of Su Huaishang's dedication to the gaming industry that the number of her fans in the gaming industry was no less than any of the famous stars in the film industry, and she had many loyal fans. In other words, she was the one and only queen in the gaming industry. It was not good for Feng Bujue to run into such an opponent. In terms of external factors, Su Huaishang had more than 1 million supporters, and the ID Feng Bujue was a legend in the city. The world had heard many legends about him, but almost no one had seen him in person, much less support him. In terms of objective power, Brother Ju was ranked 2nd on the combat ranking, while Su Huaishang was ranked 14th. They were both in the top 20, and they were both VIP players. At least based on the system's calculation, the gap between them was not that big. Furthermore, Su Huaishang was a professional player who had made a name for herself a long time ago. Brother Ju did not expect her to be that weak. Perhaps the only thing that was fair was the pre-match intelligence gathering aspect. Since neither of them participated in the Battle of the Cocoon, neither of them had recorded the match. In terms of character information, main weapon, equipment, skills, fighting style, and so on, Feng Bujue was just a casual player. He did not have a reliable channel to gather information about his opponent. And Su Huaishang, even though she had the support of her studio, Red Cherry could not do anything about Feng Bujue. In conclusion, There were many things to see in this match, and the result was hard to predict. The Dream Company did not shy away from announcing that this match would be broadcasted on the big screen and would be live-streamed first. This Battle of the Butterfly had attracted the attention of many. There were too many questions that would be answered in this match. Feng Bujue. Who was this person who suddenly climbed to the second place on the combat ranking? Even Su Huaishang was curious about this. Chapter 439. On the morning of the 25th of May, at the market's 10th zone, Passing Rain and Laughing Soul were there to join in the fun. They wanted to see how the commentator would announce the match. Hi, beauties, long time no see. Once they entered the market, they ran into a familiar face. Oh, it's Jean Fugay. Laughing Soul giggled. Hey, can't you just call me by my nickname? Atobi really did not expect that. The first thing that came out of her mouth would be a trap for him. Then, the two from Underworld Frontline saw that there was another player in Hyodiai's outfit standing next to Atobi. It was a female player, and her ID was Black White Gray. Even though Black White Gray was a female player, she was dressed in male clothing. Her hair was combed into bangs, and there was a masculine air about her. It felt like Atobi next to her was more feminine. Leader, so your name is Jean Fugue? Black White Gray laughed. Atobi could not deny his real name, so he quickly changed the topic. Let me make the introductions. This is the wife of Master Feng of Broken Sword Chahitsu, and this is the main fighter of their organization. He was trying to pull the rug out from under them. What? Black White Gray was confused. However, she soon saw the badge of Underworld Frontline and said, Wow, you are. Yes. Passing Rain interrupted her directly to prevent her from making a fuss and attracting the attention of the surrounding people. Oh, leader, you're amazing. You really know someone from Underworld Frontline. Due to Xiao Tan's outstanding performance, Underworld Frontline has gained some fame. Black White Gray turned to Atobi. I thought you were bluffing again. Atobi was embarrassed, but he did not know how to react, so he could only laugh drily. This word again sure makes one's imagination run wild. Laughing Soul said with a wicked smile. You are indeed here. Another familiar voice rang out. Long Almin waved as he walked over. Because we knew this would be live-streamed, we decided to come and take a look. Passing Rain said. 7 kills followed beside Brother Long and greeted the 4 before him. Nice to meet you. Oh, it's 7 kills, leader. Black White's hands tugged on Atobi's collar and swung him back and forth, but her eyes were glued to the 2 from Blade Edge. I saw it. Atobi was not that powerful, but he had met many important characters. Basically, for those who had become good friends with Feng Bujue, they would not be surprised no matter what happened. Long Almin and Atobi knew each other. They had rehearsed the scenario together with Xiao Tan. Thus, after some introductions and small talk, the 6 of them stood together to watch the competition. Right? Atobi. After a while, 7 Kills was reminded of something and told Atobi, Your club's Mingnan trio seems to have all entered the Battle of the Butterfly. That's quite impressive. Atobi's face blushed again. Yes, those 3 kids are okay, huh? He forced a smile. 7 Kills was slow on the uptake. He did not see the reason for the awkwardness. Noticing the weird reaction from Atobi, he did not say anything else. He shrugged and turned back to the big screen. Leader, even you can feel embarrassed. Black White whispered into Atobi's ear. Stop nagging. At least I made it to the playoffs. It's the competition schedule. The competition schedule. Atobi explained softly. At this point, he was suddenly reminded of something. He turned to Passing Rain and Laughing Soul to ask, Speaking of which, the 2 of you have reached level 30 already, right? How come I don't see your names in the Battle of the Cocoon? We didn't sign up, Passing Rain answered succinctly. Laughing Soul added, I feel like the competition is so troublesome. Oh, you have a point. After all, you are casual players. Atobi agreed. Even professional players will be eliminated. Black White leaned in to give the leader another stab. At the same time, in the login lobby, Feng Bujue sat on the stool, waiting for the competition to start. With the big battle around the corner, It would be rude if he did not provide a character profile. Following was Brother Jew's information after 30 chapters. Title: Vanguard of Darkness. Title: Ability: Descent of the Ward, Demon EXP. 19950039000. Skill points: 30,700. Game coins: 1960000. Mastery: General ability C, Workmanship C, Sleuthing D, Fighting B, Marksmanship D, Medic D, Sorcery C. Summoning D. Inventory: 10/15 Mario's Wrench, Flashlight, Stool of the 18 Bronze Statues, Number 5, SCP, 500-520, Anti-Gravity Gun, Miss Moxie's Bad Temper, Belle of Jean Gang, Life Points Recovery Potion, M, X5. Endless Grenade Box, WJQ. 308 Military Shovel, Indestructible, Equipment, Jazz Shoes, Death Poker, Sorcery Weapon, Echo Armor, Artemis Embrace, Alchemy Amplification Device Storage, 2/10 Puzzle Card, Monkey, Puzzle Card, Strawberry Skills Column, 712, Not So Hasty Repair, Body Enhancement Technique, Ice Alchemist Persistence, Southern Dipper, Flying Dragon Fist, Summon, Musashi Koganui, Jeppo. It could be seen that Brother Jew, who had just sold 2 million game coins at the start of May, had accumulated close to 2 million game coins by the end of May. However, when he finished his trade at the start of the month, he had about 860,000 game coins left. In other words, his game coins this month was less than half of the previous month's. There were two main reasons for this. One was undoubtedly the magical disintegrator. If he sold all the equipment that was used for this thing, then it would be a sizable profit. Furthermore, Brother Jew had gone to buy a few useless, excellent quality equipment to fill it up. That would be even more of a loss for him. The second reason was that after his level increased, Brother Jew would often challenge the team's survival mode on Nightmare difficulty. But so far, he had not cleared it even once. The time he wasted on these scenarios was not worth much. Overall, in this half a month, Fong Bujue had basically maintained his character as a casual player. Because there was no competition pressure, he was quite lazy with his character. Instead, he was more concerned with Xiao Tan's competition schedule. However, after Woody's visit, Fong Bujue's attitude had to change. Therefore, in the past 2 days, he had fully utilized his game time to seriously clear some solo Nightmare scenarios. As long as he cleared them, he would choose the EXP reward. With this, he quickly reached level 39. Unfortunately, this last-minute effort did not give Fong Bujue much of a boost. The equipment and skills that he had acquired during this time were mostly mediocre. There was only one fighting skill that was okay, but he did not meet the requirements to learn it. Name: Fallen Flowers, Scattered Flower, Skill Card Attribute. Active, permanent skill type. Fighting effect. With the user as the center, all targets within a radius of 10 meters will be attacked indiscriminately. Cooldown of 40 minutes. Can only be activated when using a bladed weapon. Consumption: 1,000 stamina points. Learning requirement: female player, fighting mastery B, sorcery D. Remark: a good swordswoman knows how to use her actions to say stay away from me. Brother Jew naturally gifted this skill to Passing Rain. After all, there is only one female player in Underworld Frontline who used a bladed weapon. Other than that, Fong Bujue had also obtained an excellent quality footwear, the kind with decent stats. However, he believed that jazz shoes were more suitable for him, so he placed a new pair of shoes in the guild's shared storage for his teammates to use as they wished. In conclusion, the hard work of the past 2 days did not give Fong Bujue any obvious boost. Now he did not have the time to prepare. Looking back at the half a month of sloppiness, he could not help but sigh. If he had been more diligent, he would have been more relaxed now. Of course, even if the situation remained the same, Brother Jew was not that worried. He firmly believed that as long as he had the heart to win, there would be a way. This was not because he was arrogant, and it was not because he underestimated Su Huaishang because she was a female player. If one were to ask him where his confidence came from, this narcissist would probably say, "When I get serious, even I am afraid of myself." Chapter 440. The Battle of the Butterfly, is about to begin. Your data will be loaded in 30 seconds. Please do not leave the login lobby. 10 seconds before loading. 9, 8, 7, 2, 1. After the countdown ended, the system audio entered his ears. The jade butterfly pierces through the flowers, a day of flying and fighting. Following these two sentences, Feng Bujue was transported into the scenario. Download complete. You're currently playing the tournament for the best Battle of the Butterfly. This mode does not have a scenario introduction, hidden side quest, or unique worldview. Reward for winning the scenario. Advance to the tournament for the best. Main quest triggered. Kill your opponent. Soon, the white light faded away from Feng Bujue's eyes, and his body regained the ability to move. He stood in the center of an ancient Roman Colosseum, surrounded by ring-shaped stands, but there were no spectators in the stands. Above him, the sky was high, and the sun was shining brightly. Around him, it was quiet. About 20 meters before Brother Ju stood a female player. Su Huaishang was in the prime of her life. She was tall and slender. Her face was beautiful, and her skin was fair. She was an unforgettable woman. The uniform of the Red Sakura Society complemented her presence perfectly. She wore a long white dress with a picture of a blood sakura on it. It fluttered in the breeze, and she looked like a fairy. In contrast, Feng Bujue, from his appearance, he could be considered quite handsome, but there was an eerie and strange presence that radiated from him. His lazy expression and listless eyes made it hard for others to guess what he was thinking. What? Is that Feng Bujue? Is he really the player ranked second on the battle ranking? Could there be a mistake? Hey, is that Joker style? This guy must be a Chinibyu. Does he have any real skills? So, Feng Bujue is that be starred. If this kid dares to touch my Shang, he will pay for it with his life. In the market, Su Huaishang supporters, normal fans, fanatics, personal guards, etc., were obviously not very friendly towards Brother Ju. Even though this was to be expected, for Feng Bujue to create such an atmosphere as soon as he appeared, it was indeed a bit over the top. Hello everyone, the Battle of the Butterfly that everyone has been waiting for is finally here. The commentator's voice sounded on the big screen. I am the commentator, Hua Xiong. I'm Pan Feng said from the side. Today, I will naturally bring you another focal battle. Hua Xiong continued. Both sides are VIP players or seated players. I'm sure everyone is very familiar with one of them. That's right, she is Red Cherry's #1 player, the goddess in the hearts of millions of players, Su Huaishang. The audience under the main screen cheered. It looked like Su Huaishang's popularity was indeed shocking. In the market, there was no lack of her fans. And the other player, Pan Feng, continued. His tone turned strange, probably because he was reminded of some unpleasant memories, is a mysterious expert. Over the past month, his name has spread to every corner of Thriller Paradise, but no one has seen him in person. Today, we will find out how powerful he really is. Obviously, what followed next was a chorus of boos. Even though the two players themselves could not hear the noise, Su Huaishang's fans still tried their best to express their stance. Okay, as shown on the screen, the match has officially begun, Hua Xiong said. We can see that the two players are facing each other in the middle of the field, and neither has made the first move. Pan Feng, try to find a topic to talk about. This is a battle between experts. Without knowing the other's background, no one will make a move recklessly. Based on my prediction, this battle will most likely start with long-range attacks. The two of them were quite clever. They cut into the main topic of the battle and did not discuss the situation between Feng Bujue and Su Huaishang. Since these two players chose to remain anonymous on the combat stat ranking, it was not convenient for the game developers to discuss their ranking. At the same time, the battle in the Colosseum continued. Su Huaishang's weapon was a blade. Twin blades, a pair of short blades that were not that long. There were scabbards on both sides of her belt. At that moment, the blades were inside the scabbards, and her hands were beside the scabbards. However, Su Huaishang did not move for a long time. Facing this mysterious Feng Bujue before her, she was obviously cautious. Naturally, She had heard the rumor that this man was ranked second on the combat stat ranking, but the studio could not find any information on this man, and that made her feel even more unsettled. The appearance is clean, and cultured. He does not look that strong, Su Huaishang thought to herself. Even though the outfit is unique, upon closer inspection, they should be cheap goods. They are not that useful. Other than normal pockets, there are no weapons or scabbards. Her eyes wandered up and down Brother Ju's body. But I cannot rule out the possibility that this is a kind of disguise, or perhaps confidence. At that moment, Brother Ju suddenly moved. He inexplicably knelt down on one knee. What is he doing, proposing? Su Huaishang's heart skipped a beat. They were several meters apart, but she still instinctively took half a step back. The next second, Feng Bujue calmly activated his skill and summoned a weird-looking primary school student. Hiss. Is it my turn to appear again? Musashi displayed his wretched figure and smiled sinisterly. Actually, the reason Brother Ju suddenly knelt down on one knee was to fulfill the condition of this summoning skill. Perform a weird action. Su Huaishang soon realized that as well, but her speculation was the activation condition of the man's summoning skill was to kneel down on one knee. Could it be that he is a summoner? Su Huaishang thought to herself, but his summoned creature does not look that strong. Could it be some kind of super powerful summoned creature that uses its psychic power or magic? Just as the suspicion rose in her heart, Brother Ju whispered something into Musashi's ear. Then the latter turned around with a wicked smile and ran away, and he ran further and further away until he left the Colosseum. What is going on? Could I have guessed correctly? Su Huaishang looked at the scene before her. She did not move, but she still opened her mouth to test the waters. You want this summoned creature to hide in the dark and ambush me from afar. Ambush me from the dark. At this point, Feng Bujue used a trick that he learned from Woody. Answer a question with a question and then add a wicked smile to it. This was a very nasty trick, but it was very practical. After using it, there was a high chance that it would enrage the opponent and it would create some psychological pressure. If you do not believe me, you can try it on other people at school or work. For example, in class, the teacher asked you, when was the Xian High Revolution? You answered, the Xian High Revolution. The leader at work asked you, where's the report that I asked you to do this morning? You laughed darkly and said, report. Then you put on an expression that said, that thing has already been used by me to clean up my own mess. In any case, this trick was tried and tested, and it was very powerful. There was no sense of life or death, so please use it with caution. Back to the topic. Obviously, Brother Ju's action earlier was purely to make use of the scenario to complete his character mission. Because he only had 2 more chances left to complete the mission of using the summoning skill and successfully summoning the summoned creature 50 times. Therefore, he had to give it up whenever he had the chance. But Su Huaishang did not know that. With Brother Ju's psychological tactic, she was placed under a layer of psychological pressure. But she had no idea the thing that she was worried about was a non-combat summoned creature that had already left the battlefield. If you don't want to tell me, then so be it. Su Huaishang's brows furrowed slightly. There was a trace of anger. She added, in the middle of a battle, you have no obligation to tell me that. As she spoke, she gripped both her swords and was ready to attack. No matter what your fighting style is, I will. Her words stopped abruptly because Feng Bujue had done something else. What the? He took out a stool from his inventory. Su Huaishang looked at the scene before her, and she could not help but grumble internally. Brother Ju held the stool and waved it in the air several times. It was like a baseball player warming up before hitting a ball. His movements were quite professional. After doing all that, he took a deep breath and turned to look at Su Huaishang. I'm also a man who cares about women. He paused for a moment. So, you'll soon be free from this violent competition. Chapter 441. He dares to say something like that, huh? What do the kids say? That is too arrogant. He took out a stool. What is he going to do to Su Huaishang? This is so infuriating. The audience before the main screen was getting agitated. The atmosphere of Phone Bujua has to die was spreading. Huh? That does sound like something Brother Phone would say. 7 kills commented with a laugh. That does sound like him, Atobi agreed. It doesn't matter who his opponent is. He doesn't care about anyone. This is not arrogance. This is a desperate attempt, Laughing Soul said with a drawn-out tone. What do you mean? Black White asked curiously. Passing Rain added. From the beginning, he knew that he would be hated by the audience. Black White thought about it. Oh, you have a point. After all, his opponent is Su Huaishang. Passing Rain added. Furthermore, Bujue is the only unknown player among the 10 VIP players. Laughing Soul added. Therefore, our leader knew before the match that no matter the result from the moment the match started, he was destined to attract endless hatred. If he won, Su Huaishang's fans would definitely not agree. Long Aomin sighed. And if he lost, his identity as a VIP player would be questioned by many other players. That's not right. Suddenly, another voice spoke up. The group turned around and realized that it was Xiao Tan who was standing there talking. Aren't you in the middle of a match? Laughing Soul asked. I'm done. Xiao Tan grinned. I won. What? Everyone was shocked by this answer. The match on the big screen had not even officially started, but Xiao Tan had already defeated his opponent and exited the scenario. Your opponent is 7 kills, asked instantly. His name is Heartbreak Fruit, Xiao Tan replied. The guild seems to be heaven and earth. Oh, it's him, 7 kills mumbled. 7 kills mumbled. It looked like he had fought this person before. He's quite a strong guy, but he only lasted for a few minutes. It's all right. You should be able to win against him easily, Xiao Tan commented. I suppose so, 7 kills replied. Ever since he lost to Xiao Tan, his confidence had taken a huge hit. He had lost quite a bit of his sharpness, and in its place, he had become much calmer and more cautious. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, the commentator's shout attracted everyone's attention. After the verbal taunt from contestant Feng Bujue, contestant Su Huaishang finally made the first move. Pan Feng said, her first move was such a beautiful and powerful attack. It's too much for the eyes to take in. Hua Xiong continued, but contestant Feng Bujue appears to be handling the situation with ease. He retreated as he fought and used a stool to block Su Huaishang's powerful attacks. Bastard, go to hell. You don't even have the right to die under Shang's blade. Hurry up and kill yourself to atone for your sins. What a braggart. You've been beaten to the point that you can't even fight back. Come on, Shang. Kill that be asterisk starred. The audience roared again. Even though their shouts could not reach the two parties involved, they were still shouting with passion. Looks like Brother Ju is indeed good at drawing hatred. At that moment, inside the Colosseum, the blades were gleaming and the two figures were moving. One person danced with 2 blades and moved like a butterfly, while the other was using a stool, and his moves were crude. Su Huaishang's swordsmanship was fast, vicious, and dangerous. The blade could sense the murderous nature of the person, and the person could sense the sharpness of the blade. His moves and styles were vigorous and overbearing. Feng Bujue, on the other hand, used the stool that he was good at. Slow, blunt, steady, not rushed, and not even a drop of water could leak out. He used seemingly simple moves to neutralize his opponent's attacks one after another. The stool had no edge. Moments later, when Su Huaishang's initial anger had calmed down, she started to reevaluate the situation before her. Normal attacks are unable to find any weakness. That kind of calm and collected reaction, it is as if he has battle meat many times already. No matter how tricky or sudden my attacks are, he is able to react perfectly or even perfectly. Her expression shifted slightly. Looks like his words and actions earlier have a deeper meaning. Not only did they create psychological pressure for me, they also messed with my emotions. This person is not as simple as he seems. With that in mind, Su Huaishang suddenly feinted an attack and then retreated. The battle that lasted for several minutes came to a temporary stop. As a professional player, Su Huaishang had naturally studied the video of Meng Jingchan vs Long Aomin match, so she was very familiar with the potential danger caused by a prolonged battle. Even though she was a woman, she rarely acted emotionally. She would not fall into her opponent's rhythm due to a moment of recklessness or blind confidence. In this regard, Su Huaishang's professionalism was far beyond the reach of many male professional players. Oh, Feng Bujue thought to himself. She is much more cunning than I thought. He revealed a half-hearted smile. Thankfully, my zero-time difference calculation has reached a rather high completion rate. Seeing the smug smile on her brother Ju's face, Su Huaishang smiled, as well, a cold smile. Her fans might be mesmerized by this smile, but Feng Bujue could only sense danger from this smile. If I'm not mistaken, Su Huaishang said, so far, you still have at least 30% of your power left. Oh, why do you say that? Feng Bujue was testing her back. Su Huaishang did not mind. This time, it was her turn to use psychological tactics. Because earlier, I used 50% of my power. Huh, what is there to be proud of? Feng Bujue shrugged and laughed. You said that I have at least 30% of my power left. That is not wrong, but the actual ratio is far from what you think. He paused. In terms of physical skill, I have only used 8% of my maximum power. Humph! Who doesn't know how to lie? Su Huaishang scoffed. Naturally, she did not believe him, but Feng Bujue was telling the truth. Earlier, Brother Ju also used 50% of his power, but he still had two skills, Body Enhancement Spell and Descent of the War Demon, that he had not used yet. Therefore, theoretically speaking, he did have a lot of room for improvement. You don't believe me? Feng Bujue put the stool away. Then let's try 16% first. Oh. Feng Bujue has made another shocking statement. Hua Xiong yelled. He was probably trying to liven up the atmosphere. He claimed that in the intense battle earlier, he only used 8% of his power. He paused for a second. Brother Pan, what do you think about that? Pan Feng added, this should be a bluff. If we follow Feng Bujue's statement, then he only needed to use 30% of his power, and Su Huaishang would have been at a disadvantage. The audience also thought that Brother Ju was lying. Instantly, there was another round of scolding. This piece of trash should come up with a better plan before he starts to spout nonsense. Is he out of his mind? Shang went easy on him, and he got carried away. But there was a small group of people who had a different opinion. Hey, is he really that good? 7 Kills turned to ask Xiao Tan. Long Aomin, Atobi-sama, and Black White Gray all turned around to listen to what the members of Underworld Frontline had to say. Xiao Tan replied thoughtfully, in terms of data, I suppose so. No. Passing Rain finally spoke. Her face was as dark as water. In a confident tone, she said, he is much stronger than that. At the same time, in the scenario, Brother Ju's counterattack had begun. He did not use any weapon. He only used his fists and legs to fight Su Huaishang. His fists moved like lightning, and his movements were unpredictable. Even when faced with his opponent's dual blades, he was not at a disadvantage. TSK. He really doubled his power. This time, Su Huaishang had used 90% of her power, and she was barely able to fight her opponent to a draw. In a battle between experts, the last of their power would not be used so easily. It was something that was reserved for the most crucial moment or to deal with an unexpected situation. If one party was forced to the point where they had to fight with their full power every second, it meant that the situation was very bad for them. At that moment, Su Huaishang was at this critical point. Even though she was unwilling to admit it, at this point, she had to admit that her opponent's power was indeed above hers. This is not good. Even if his physical skill has reached its limit, I am still in danger. Su Huaishang thought to herself. He is using his fists and legs to fight against my weapons. If the conditions are equal, I am afraid I will not be able to hold on. With that in mind, she could not help but feel fear. What if he is really only using 16% of his power? Then she hesitated for a second. That is impossible. I'm also a player ranked in the top 20. The gap between us cannot be that big. Stop spacing out, Heroine Su. Feng Bujue's words interrupted her train of thought. Brother Ju not only had the energy to speak in this intense battle, he even managed to speak in a relaxed tone. His breathing was not erratic at all. This undoubtedly gave his opponent a strong psychological hint. Humph, you are getting ahead of yourself. Su Huaishang snorted coldly. Then she twisted her slender waist and extended her jade-like hands. The short blade in her left hand slashed horizontally. Feng Bujue's expression was calm. He tilted his neck and raised his wrist. His right palm suddenly pulled inward. With his fingers like a sword, he aimed for Su Huaishang's shoulder. This kind of counterattack had caused Su Huaishang to suffer many setbacks. She had never encountered an opponent like this before. He was able to come up with a counterattack that was difficult to deal with. Seeing that her attack was being countered again, she had no choice but to take a step back. Then she twisted her waist and lowered her left elbow. She abandoned the blade and used her elbow to elbow Feng Bujue's right rib. Brother Ju saw that his opponent had fallen for his trick and knew that his time had come. He took the attack head-on, ignoring the 7% loss of life points, and activated Southern Dipper Flying Dragon Fist. And Su Huaishang could not avoid it anymore. Of course, a top player had their own strengths. At this critical moment, she used a skill almost instinctively. Name: Northern Heaven Cross Sparrow Skill Card Attribute. Active, permanent skill type. Fighting effect: activate a cross-shaped ice elemental slash with a sharp blade. Cooldown time is 12 minutes. Can only be activated when using a sword-type weapon. Consumption: 400 stamina points. Learning requirement: Fighting serene, a skill created by a northern swordsman. Due to his high level of kung fu, he became obsessed with martial arts in his later years. He tried to write a book that would rule the world forever, but every time he created a skill, it would be broken. In the end, even though he created a large number of skills, he discarded them all as useless. In the end, he died of depression. Su Huaishang's reflexive actions had allowed her to minimize the damage she had sustained. Northern Heaven Cross Sparrow not only nullified most of the damage from Flying Dragon Fist, it also managed to apply a freezing effect on Feng Bujue's hand. In this battle, it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. The light faded and the battle stopped. The two figures retreated to a safe distance, stabilized themselves, and made temporary adjustments. It sounded long, but the time that Feng Bujue and Su Huaishang used to counter each other was only several seconds. At that moment, the market was completely silent. Even the two casters took a long time to process what had just happened. Both parties have used their skills and are now facing each other head-on, Huaxiong said, but it is still unclear who has the upper hand. From the live feed, we can see that contestant Feng Bujue's hand has been imbued with a freezing effect. Pan Feng said, and under his ultimate, contestant Su Huaishang is probably quite injured as well. B** starred. Go to hell. Death penalty. How dare you attack my Shang? You have a chop off your hand. Not long after that, a few of Su Huaishang's personal guards started to shout again, but this time, their voices were lacking in confidence, and the number of normal players who supported them decreased greatly. The scene just now had already explained a lot of things. Even a player with average skill level could see some clues. Even though this kind of close combat might not look impressive, that was the difference between an expert and a normal player. The same person had 2 hands and 2 legs, but what they could do, a normal player would not be able to do. Even though Su Huaishang's fans did not like Brother Ju, before the truth, they had nothing to say. Feng Bujue's quick reaction and strange movement were indeed one of a kind. With the support of Soul's Eye, he could use the seemingly chaotic movement to complete the correct response with extreme precision. This kind of fighting style was unique, and the players who watched the match that day had their eyes open to a whole new world. Is this really only 16%? Brother Long's head was covered in cold sweat. This time, even Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul were shaken. There was only one person who had the confidence and qualification to answer this question, and she was the only one who had fought Feng Bujue at his peak. Yes, he is much stronger than that. Passing Rain's expression was normal, and she said lightly, "Let's keep watching." Something crossed her eyes. Su Huaishang hasn't used her full power yet. Phew. After Su Huaishang adjusted herself, she straightened her body and took a deep breath. Her blushing cheeks and rising chest made people unable to take their eyes off her. Her rosy cheeks and plump chest were enough to make a girl take a second look. Feng Bujue's gaze naturally stopped on her body, but his eyes were cloudy and unpredictable. It was hard to tell what he was thinking. Was he admiring the beauty, or was he wary of the enemy? Only he knew. Ha! Feng Bujue suddenly laughed again. As he laughed, he started to warm up. He raised his left arm horizontally across his chest and extended it to his right. At the same time, he bent his right arm and pulled his left arm towards his body and twisted his waist to the right. After doing it once, he changed his arm, changed his direction, and did it again. "Are you ready?" Feng Bujue asked. "Ready for what?" Su Huaishang asked in return. "Are you going to lead me through the broadcast gymnastics?" "Huh?" Feng Bujue laughed. "I'm asking you, are you ready for the 32%? Once that was said, Su Huaishang's face paled. She thought to herself, he can still improve. How is that possible? The viewers in the market were complaining as well. This Feng Bujue is actually brother to Guro, right? That was not a bad trick you used earlier. As Feng Bujue spoke, he started to do some unnecessary stretching exercises. He looked like a primary school student doing morning exercises. Could this be the unique skill of the legendary Sirius Wolf Blade, Frozen Snapper Mountain? His line was hard to believe. From the name of the weapon to the name of the skill, everything is wrong. Su Huaishang lowered her head to look at the butterfly blades in her hands. It's one thing to call the opponent's weapon a cleaver. But what kind of mentality is that? Outside the stage, Su Huaishang's fans had their brains short-circuited because their goddess had just complained, and the thing was, it was quite believable. Passing Rain sighed softly. "Looks like another healthy young man has been led astray by you. What a sin." Xiao Tan and Laughing Soul said in unison. "I believe 32% is enough." Feng Bujue soon brought the topic back on track. "You should be mentally prepared by now, right? I shall wait and see." Su Huaishang had already set her eyes on a consumable skill in her skill bar. She planned to bet everything on this. "By the way, after this match is over, I will be cursed to death by your fans, right?" Feng Bujue was not in a hurry to make his move. He seemed to have the victory in his hands. He said calmly, "I have waited for so long for my idol to appear on the stage, and now I'm going to be eliminated in the first match. They will be able to hear what you're saying now." Su Huaishang reminded him. "Yes, I know that. Why else do you think I'm saying this?" Feng Bujue said as he raised his head. "System, can you give me a close-up?" He waited for a few seconds, and the system really did give him a close-up, ladies and gentlemen. Feng Bujue revealed a maniacal smile. Every detail on his face was displayed on the giant screen. "If my prediction is correct, at this moment, your idol still has one or two skills up her sleeve. Other than that, her physical skills can be forcefully increased by another 20 to 30%. His words hit the nail on the head. Su Huaishang's heart skipped a beat. But as Feng Bujue said that, he suddenly took out 2 grenades from his chest. He raised them to his lips and bit off the 2 pins. She can only hold on for another 30 seconds. Ha! Ha 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 ha! He started to laugh maniacally. His body was suddenly covered in a layer of red light. His whole body shot towards Su Huaishang like an arrow. Chapter 442. At that moment, all that was left in Su Huaishang's vision was a blurry shadow. She knew in her heart that she could no longer keep up with this kind of speed, but she had no intention of giving up. If anything, she focused even more. Since the 2 grenades are of the same model and the fuses were pulled at the same time, then the explosion must have happened at the same time. Su Huaishang's mind raced. He couldn't have held the grenades in his hand to blow me up, so in this dangerous situation, she made the correct judgment. No matter how crazy Feng Bujue was acting, It was just part of his psychological warfare. He would not do something like self-destruct when he had the upper hand. As expected, just as the grenades were about to explode, Feng Bujue stopped abruptly. He used the inertia to toss out the 2 grenades. Then he bounced off the ground and leaped backwards. The 2 explosive objects flew towards Su Huaishang from 2 sides in a triangle formation, vaguely concealing her within. Normally, she would have 2 options to deal with this situation. One was to jump upwards. 2 was to retreat backwards. But Su Huaishang's keen combat instinct led her to choose the 3rd option, which was to charge forward. She crossed the 2 swords in her hands and charged forward. 2 slashes were ready to be unleashed. The 2 grenades brushed past her body, and the distance between them widened. Boom, boom. The 2 explosions sounded almost at the same time. The explosion happened about 7 or 8 meters behind Su Huaishang. The shrapnel that flew out did not cause too much damage to her. In fact, the shockwave from the explosion helped her and allowed her to get close to Feng Bujue, who was moving backward. That was a good response. Feng Bujue mumbled, "But you're still too slow. If you charge me like this, you won't even last 30 seconds. A golden light flashed in his hand, and a poker card that was held between his right index and middle finger slid out. Chi! Blood splattered everywhere, but the person did not fall. Feng Bujue was surprised for the first time in this battle. This was not a good sign. Su Huaishang was still laughing. Even though her neck had been slashed open, the expression on her face did not look like someone who was about to lose. "So, this is your trump card." Feng Bujue's eyes moved down and saw something that Su Huaishang was holding in her hand. Name, 8 Jing Xia Pill. Type, other rarity, legendary special effect. Unknown. Remark, a holy relic once soaked in the blood of the goddess. Su Huaishang chanced upon this item in a team's nightmare scenario. Together with a piece of skull, it was kept inside a dark room at Skygrass City. Next to this item was a scroll, which was essentially a skill card. Name, Soul Advent, skill card attribute. Special skill, disappears after 1 use. Skill type, spiritual arts, effect. Summon the power of the sword masters from another world. Lasts for 5 minutes. Consumption, 8 tranquil clouds pill. Sprinkle the 8 tranquil clouds pill with the fresh blood of the moment of death to activate. Learning requirement, level 40 and above. Skill card cannot be traded after it is acquired. Remark, in the state of Soul Advent, life points, stamina points, and sorcery points will be infinite. The skill bar will break through the limit, and you'll be able to use all the skills of the sword masters. After the skill ends, life points, stamina points, and sorcery points will drop to 1%, and you will not be affected by any buff items for the next 3 minutes. This skill was originally reserved to deal with Sky swallowing Phantom Dawn. Su Huaishang's tone suddenly became very calm. The holy relic in her hand was dissolving into white light. I have fought him once, and that was the only time I have felt complete despair in battle. She paused. Who would have thought? You would give me the same feeling. As she spoke, the wound on her neck was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. By then, Feng Bujue had retreated more than 10 meters away. The moment his opponent activated the skill, he instinctively felt a huge sense of danger. If you're only using 32% of your power now, Su Huaishang said as she sheathed the blade in her left hand. She held the blade with both hands. Then I suggest you use everything you have now, or else. The short blade in her right hand suddenly released a wave of murderous intent. The blade turned solid, and the blade morphed into a state of light that was 3 times longer than it was before. Feng Bujue knew something was wrong. This was not a situation that he could handle with his bare hands. He quickly pulled out a stool and a military shovel. He held one in each hand. In a way, he was wielding 2 weapons, but he looked like he was going to dig coal. Oh. Everyone, please take a look. Contestant Su Huaishang's fatal wound has healed instantly. What is going on? Hua Xiong yelled. Looks like she did not use any medical skill. Pan Feng added. Based on my experience, she has probably activated some kind of transformation skill, but there is no obvious change to her appearance. The 2 of them were not really that good. Actually, The two of them were just putting on an act. GMs like them had a different view of the competition. Other than the normal battle footage, they could also see the system's battle log on the split screen. They would know what items and skills the players used. Without this function, the two of them would have a hard time commentating. Of course, the battle log didn't record the exact amount of HP and stamina the two players had left. This was to prevent the commentator from accidentally predicting the outcome of the battle. Good. Our goddess is the strongest. She will not lose. Kill that arrogant kid. 30 seconds have passed. He's been slapped in the face. Huh. Shang, you can do it. Kill him. Another wave of cheers erupted from the audience. Everyone was happy to see Feng Bujue being turned around. It feels like she has suddenly turned into a different person. Xiaodan looked at the screen with contemplation. The way she holds the sword, the footwork, the distance between her and her opponent, the way she breathes. He commented, "That is impressive, Humph. That's more like it." Passing Rain smiled. "Things are getting interesting." Atobi turned around in shock. "Hey, big sister, what's with that expression? Don't tell me you're actually supporting Su Huaishang?" Passing Rain smiled, but did not answer. In terms of position, she was naturally on Brother Ju's side. But she also wanted to see Feng Bujue suffer. Back in the Colosseum, "You've created your own, Wu Ming," Su Huaishang said. She moved her blade, and the blade suddenly became longer and narrower. "That sounds familiar," Feng Bujue mumbled. "Who is that weapon again?" Su Huaishang ignored him. She took one step forward, and with a twist of the blade, she leaped into the air. A beautiful crescent-shaped slash came at her. Flying swallows 6 consecutive slashes. Feng Bujue took half a step back. He crossed the stool and military shovel and prepared to fight. With both of his feet on the ground, it was easier for him to leverage. His opponent, on the other hand, was in midair. In a head-on clash, Brother Ju had the upper hand because he had more tricks up his sleeve. But after 2 clanking sounds, the 2 weapons in Feng Bujue's hands were knocked away. Thankfully, he had a strong grip and did not let go of the stool and shovel. However, his arms were involuntarily thrown backward. He staggered back about 8 steps before he could steady himself. WTF? Feng Bujue cursed in his mind. "Are you kidding me? What was that item that she used just now? A spiritual item that contains the power of a master? Can you still block it?" Su Huaishang stopped her attack and landed lightly on the ground. But this is just the beginning. When she said that, her body moved and she suddenly appeared before Brother Ju. The latter's reaction was also very fast, and he met her attack head-on. Secret Sword, Fine Snow, Secret Sword, Dreamy Dawn, and Secret Sword. Burning Sun were all used consecutively. Su Huaishang's Aiajutsu was seamless, and her attacks were powerful. Feng Bujue felt like he could barely block her attacks. If it was not for his soul's eye, he would have been severely injured. Something is not right. This is not just about getting stronger. Feng Bujue said, "This is like a completely different person fighting me, Humph. Let's see how long you can last." Su Huaishang had gained the upper hand. She was getting more and more used to the soul's advent state. She twisted her wrist, and the blade lengthened again. A faint purple light appeared on the blade. This time, the weapon that was formed by the purple light was a famous blade from the ancient Yin sword school, Plum Ing Poison. After Su Huaishang changed her blade, she charged forward again. She did not care about the consumption of her energy. She could attack as she pleased. 100 ghosts kill. Before she finished her sentence, she had already reached Feng Bujue's side. The energy from her blade was like a raging wave. The energy from her blade was like a lightning dragon. Feng Bujue finally could not hold it in any longer. Initially, he wanted to preserve some of his power in this match, but from the looks of it, he had no choice but to give it his all. "You are forcing me to be serious," he said as he leaped into the air. Brother Ju, with his body enhancement spell, could jump at least 20 meters. After he leaped into the air above the arena, he immediately leaned sideways and used a very awkward posture to use Jeppo. For a moment, he began to spin like a spinning top. Half a second later, he used the momentum of the spinning kick to continuously perform Rankyaku with one leg. What was supposed to be a curve kick was now like a tornado rushing down. Do you think you're the only one who knows how to shout out the name of skill? Feng Bujua shouted as he continued to attack. Look at my self-created Thunderbolt of the Nine Suns, Mad Dragon Drill. The audience in front of the main screen said in unison, that's obviously Wang Xiaohu's dragon and tiger sex move. At that moment, Su Huaishang had also leaped into the air. She originally wanted to chase after her opponent, but Brother Ju had jumped before her. This short delay allowed her to counterattack. Oomph! Cherry Blossom Slash. Su Huaishang raised her hand and slashed in the air. The sword energy that she released turned into a cherry pink light plate. It created a series of afterimages and blocked Feng Bujue's attack. TCH, Rubber Battle Axe. Feng Bujue stopped spinning and kicked high above his head. He then used his heel and performed Rang Kyaku again. A thick arc of light came crashing down. It's neither rubber nor battle axe. Su Huaishang complained again, but that was not the main point. At that moment, she took out the sword in her left hand from its scabbard and combined it with the hilt of the sword in her right hand. The two of them combined into one and turned into a long-handled tachi. It was still made of light. This was the Thousand Liang Mad Dead Man's weapon. Women's room. How about I change it to Yuega, Tenzho next time? Feng Bujue said. Bloody wind, soul, joy. Su Huaishang held the blade and spun it around like a whirlwind. The whirlwind that was released from the whirlwind quickly dispelled Rankyaku's attack. In the blink of an eye, she was already closing in on Feng Bujue. Who's afraid of who? I'll spin too. Feng Bujue opened his arms and waved his stool and military shovel. He mimicked his opponent's movements and attacked downwards. Blood smoke dance. He also roared and used the Thousand Liang Mad Dead Man's skill. Pang, 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 pang. Their weapons clashed, sparks flew in all directions, and their do-chi collapsed. The air of the arena was chaotic, and the energy in the air was like a dense fog, condensing and not dispersing. In the market, the audience was silent again. All they could feel was shock. This match was without a doubt the most exciting match since the beginning of the tournament for the best. Even though the battle between Question the Heavens and Vishnu was also a battle between the top 20 players, the battle between the two was not as beautiful and exciting as this one. After all, Su Huaishang used a super powerful skill that could only be activated by consuming a legendary item. Compared to Descent of the War Demon, the effect of the skill could only be said to be better. The level of this battle, from the moment the skill was activated, had been raised to another level. Su Huaishang, you can do it. Don't lose. Shang, that kid is a bit too stubborn. That guy's a monster. He can hold on even with a stool and a military shovel. The crowd's disgust toward Feng Bujue did not decrease, but it was replaced with respect. In the arena, the two of them were locked in a battle of extreme moves, and it was hard to tell who was the winner. But as time moved on, Su Huaishang, who was at the lower end, was more and more affected by the gravity. She was naturally aware of this. She also didn't want to fight over this time and place. Therefore, with a thrust of her saber, she turned around and ended the confrontation. Feng Bujue felt like he had been pardoned. His two arms were about to give out. Thankfully, his opponent pulled back at that moment, giving him a chance to catch his breath. You're lying. Su Huaishang floated down from the air, and a smug smile appeared on her face. The 32% that you mentioned is actually your full power, isn't it? Feng Bujue was also descending. He scoffed. Do you really want to fight me in my full power? He paused. I am 3 times stronger than I am now, humph. If that is true, I would like to see it for myself. Su Huaishang landed on the ground. The polearm in her hand was split into 2 again, and it turned into 2 blades. The light on the blades changed again, and they turned into 2 tachi, 1 long and 1 short. Feng Bujue also landed safely on the ground. His eyes fell directly on his opponent's weapon. Let me guess, this time it's Yamato, Shohu Tetsuki. I can't even memorize the names of all the skills and weapons in the skill list, but you can recite them directly. Su Huaishang replied. In a way, you are indeed quite impressive. Based on my speculation, the thing that you used earlier. Feng Bujue continued. It allowed you to gain the skill of all the characters in the samurai. Your blade also gained the ability to transform into any character's weapon. As he said that, he put the stool and military shovel back into his inventory. Other than that, from the rhythm of your attacks and the choice of skills, I believe the exhaustion of your attacks is negligible. He opened his arms and smiled. This state has a certain duration, right? Hearing that, Su Huaishang was shocked. To be able to say the first two was nothing. At most, it could prove that this man was a shut-in and was very familiar with the settings of the samurai. But to be able to say the last one, that was not easy. When the enemy's power suddenly skyrocketed and they attacked continuously, the most important thing for a person to consider would be how to solve the problem before them. But Feng Bujue was thinking deeper, and further. During the intense battle, he had already made a calm and precise decision. What can you change even if you know? Before Su Huaishang finished her sentence, she moved again. After she activated the skill, she did not show any panic because she wanted to create a psychological illusion to make her opponent think that the buff would last forever. That would create fear and panic. But this Feng Bujue's reaction surprised her. He was so calm that it was infuriating. At this point, Su Huaishang had no reason to pretend to be calm and chat with her opponent anymore. If they wanted to talk, they could talk during the battle. What can I change? When Feng Bujue said that, he also activated Descent of the War Demon. Perhaps someone would ask why Brother Ju did not use the combination of Descent of the War Demon and Body Enhancement spell from the start. That way, Su Huaishang would be caught off guard and killed instantly. Actually, this was not that complicated because the cost of Descent of the War Demon was too high. Once it was used, there was no way out. If the battle was not finished within the time limit, then the only thing left to do was to wait for death. Feng Bujue did not know Su Huaishang that well. He did not know what kind of skill she had. If Su Huaishang had some kind of special skill that could save her from being killed instantly, or she could hide herself, then once the 3 minutes of Descent of the War Demon was over, Brother Ju would be lying on the ground, waiting to be trampled on. At this point, Feng Bujue was cornered to the point where he would be killed if he did not activate his skill. Then, there was nothing to be worried about. Black energy rushed into the sky, and the sky changed in the blink of an eye. Fear, like a pair of invisible hands, gripped Su Huaishang's throat. Her movement stopped. She could feel an extremely scary presence descending before her. 100%, that's about it. Feng Bujue's body was enveloped in a layer of raging and violent black energy. His expression was as dark and calm as ever. However, his eyes were filled with endless fanatical fighting spirit. You asked for it. Chapter 443. At the same time, inside the login lobby of another VIP player. Oh, is this the power of the primordial war demon? Phantom Dawn was watching the live stream with interest. No wonder even Brother Zen is interested in this Feng Bujue. He is indeed something else. His fists tightened subconsciously, and a smile appeared on his lips. This man is very interesting. In the Colosseum, the golden light around Su Huaishang glowed brightly, but Feng Bujue's black aura was brighter. At that moment, the sword spirit knew how to fight demons. I shall not hold back then. Feng Bujue whispered and leaped forward. Su Huaishang raised her blades and faced off against Feng Bujue. The battle started with a new chapter, and both sides started with extremely dangerous moves. Su Huaishang's blades came out in parallel, and the blades exploded. It was as if she had stabbed forward 7 or 8 times at the same time. Her 8 directions destruction was like a bullet made from the blades, and it was very effective against the enemies in front of her. But Feng Bujue did not think much of it. Now Brother Ju was a level 39 player. His physical fitness was extremely good, and his fighting mastery had reached level B as well. For a character like this, with Descent of the War Demon and Body Enhancement spell fully activated, the speed that he could reach was not something that a normal person could imagine. In his eyes, he could clearly see every attack that Su Huaishang made. First, last, light, heavy, slow, fast. He could see them all. Moreover, he was able to dodge it, and he was able to easily dodge it. This feels different from the last time I used it. Feng Bujue thought to himself. This time, I have reached a new level. He seemed to have understood something. In other words, under descent of the war demon, the stronger my physical ability, the higher the level of power that I can experience. At that moment, Brother Ju's perspective of observation was very close to that of an anomaly. He only needed to focus, and he could see matter as a stream of data. So that's how it is. Is this the true face of energy? It seems to be something that can be directly controlled. As he pondered this, he reached out his hand. In the next second, he actually managed to grab hold of a ball of black fighting aura and turned it from nothingness to reality, turning it into a black energy beam with substantial destructive power. Feng Bujue's cloud halberd technique was similar to Su Huaishang's blade of light. However, his technique was undoubtedly superior. When Su Huaishang saw this, she was shocked. She hurriedly made another 3 moves: Heart's Eye Saber, Water Moon, Heart's Eye Saber, Mutual Destruction, and Heart's Eye Saber, Heaven's Net. This time, the saber ray that she slashed out was greenish-blue in color. The 3 moves were all powerful and unstoppable. Her frontal defense was impenetrable. However, Feng Bujue's actual speed had far exceeded her expectations. You're so slow that it's like you're still. Suddenly, a chuckle could be heard. Brother Ju had appeared behind Su Huaishang. The black energy beam in his hand was like a sharp blade. With a push of his hand, it pierced through the back of his opponent's heart. A flower of blood blossomed in front of Su Huaishang's chest, reflecting the red cherry blossoms on her white dress. Cough! Su Huaishang spat out a mouthful of blood. Her eyebrows furrowed and her face paled. This wound to the heart was naturally painful. When her fans saw this, they were so heartbroken that they were about to go crazy. However, she was still able to endure and did not give up. Under the effect of Soul Advent, her life points were infinite. This effect was even more shocking than Descent of the War Demon. His 300% life points. To put it simply, as long as her body did not receive any fatal injuries, she would not die. Therefore, Su Huaishang did not give up. She still had the strength to fight. This is my chance. She ignored the pain on her body and gritted her teeth. Instead, she took advantage of her opponent's weakness and switched from defense to offense. The saber in her hand suddenly turned purple and blue. With a burst of energy, she slashed down. Feng Bujue saw this and retreated. He covered his hand with black fighting aura and raised his arm to block. Pang! The 2 energies collided. The fighting aura on Brother Ju's hand and the saber energy on Su Huaishang's saber both dissipated. At that moment, Feng Bujue's center was wide open. Su Huaishang would not let go of this opportunity. The 2 sabers in her hands continued to attack. The blue blade in one hand slashed upwards, and the purple blade in the other pierced forward. After these 2 attacks, she leaned forward and slashed horizontally with her arms spread apart. This double moon formation, 1 Tachi, 2 Tachi, was Yagyu Jubiai's defense-breaking combo. It was also a unique skill of the 2 Saber School. Its specialty was to break through the enemy's defense with brute force and kill with skill. When facing an opponent like Feng Bujue, playing tricks would not give her any advantage. In the face of 0 time difference, there was no such thing as a strange move. Therefore, a mature and fixed routine was more effective than a strange move. TSS, TSS, TSS. 3 short and rapid sound were heard. Feng Bujue's right chest, left shoulder, and ribs were all hit. The wounds opened and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. However, his expression did not change. It looked like he was not in danger for now. As expected, from a data perspective, the so-called injury is just an abnormal combination of codes. As long as I know how to convert it, I can use pure energy to correct it. Feng Bujue would not feel fear in battle. His opponent would not be able to exert any pressure on him mentally, so he could maintain a calm mind in the midst of an intense battle. Pure energy can be converted into many kinds of data. It should be able to do many things. He thought as he tried. He guided the black fighting aura from his body and used it to cover the 3 wounds on his body. In the end, the gushing blood was actually stopped. Skills. To put it bluntly, they are fixed formulas provided by the system to help the player use their own energy more effectively. Feng Bujue concluded this untimely experiment in his mind. But the complexity of these formulas is not something that can be constructed with the human brain alone. Even if it's just an F-grade medical skill, it's still countless times better than what I'm doing now. If I have to make an analogy, the difficulty of what I'm doing is equivalent to shooting a basketball. What the system is doing is akin to inventing the sport of basketball within a second. These thoughts flashed through Brother Ju's mind in a matter of seconds. In these few seconds, the black energy that pierced through Su Huaishang's body dissipated on its own. Her wounds healed in an instant. Then, Su Huaishang raised her wrists again. The 2 swords in her hands merged into one. The weapon she chose this time looked simple and unadorned. The shape of the blade was standard. However, the aura that radiated from the blade was stronger than any of the previous swords. This blade was Ming Blade Pufferfish Venom. At this time, Su Huaishang's skill had lasted for 3 minutes. Her opponent was obviously not the kind of enemy that could be defeated in 2 or 3 moves. Therefore, she had to press on and attack without delay. Whirlwind Crescent Slash. She hissed as she leaned forward. Humph! Feng Bujue scoffed. He somersaulted backwards and used the momentum to launch Rankyaka Kick. Rankyaka Kick, White Thunder. This time, he was more serious when he yelled out the name of the skill. Furthermore, with his current ability, the power of the skill was no less than the standard of Art 2, Sharp Wind. Su Huaishang did not mind the loss of life points. Therefore, she did not hesitate to use close combat to counter the slash before her. Using the power of her skill, she broke through the shockwave and took another step forward. You are quite resilient. Then let's do this again. Rankyaku Kick, Chain of Wolves. Feng Bujue leaped lightly and kicked with both of his legs. For unique slashes flew out like hungry wolves pouncing on their enemies. Humph! Resilient. That is my line. Su Huaishang grumbled internally. Her cheeks, waist, and the outside of her thighs were quickly injured by Rankyaka Kick. One of the slashes landed right on the side of her neck. But this time, Su Huaishang had made up her mind to kill. She resisted the pain and did not attack. Relying on her willpower and tenacity, she managed to get in front of Feng Bujue. At this moment, the 2 of them looked at each other. They were so close to each other. One was the posture of charging forward, while the other was the posture of leaning back and leaping backward. Su Huaishang was determined to kill, and Feng Bujue was in a frenzy. An earth-shattering slash was unleashed. Esoteric, Sky Tyrant slash in Feng Bujue's eyes. There was a sudden flash of light, and a mad killing style came crashing down on him. An invisible force pressed down on his body, making it impossible for him to evade. At that moment, the death poker glowed gold, and the special effect of Shield Card was activated. Feng Bujue used his only defensive skill. He channeled all of his energy into the shield formed by the death poker in an attempt to block the fatal slash. However, a moment later, there was a flash of blood. Feng Bujue was no match for Su Huaishang's attack. His chest was sliced open by the slash. The wound was ghastly and blood splashed everywhere. I get it now. Feng Bujue was still laughing. He opened his mouth to say, "Before this skill ends, your life points are unlimited, right? No wonder you are so unharmed." PFFF. A mouthful of blood interrupted him. It is too late for you to realize that now. Su Huaishang's breathing stabilized, and she charged up again. Sky Tyrant slash. The effect of Soul Advent was indeed overpowered. As long as the conditions allowed it, she could use her esoteric skills without fear. Then I will tear you in half, Feng Bujue said coldly. The energy around him reignited, and demonic energy filled the sky. At that moment, the sky darkened and the sun and moon dimmed. Feng Bujue's entire body was enveloped in energy. He looked like a demon. He used his fists and legs to block the attack. He did not retreat, but instead pressed forward. Su Huaishang had no reason to retreat, and her attack did not slow down. However, after the attack, the Sky Tyrant slash was shattered by Feng Bujue's bare hands. The blade that was forged from light was shattered as well. How is this possible? Su Huaishang could not help but utter a sentence that was like a death flag. Be it the blade or the hand, they're all just data. Feng Bujue explained as he fought. The energy that transforms the blade is similar to the energy on the surface of my body. Therefore, the more powerful one will naturally be able to shatter the other. As Su Huaishang's weapon was destroyed, the battle between the two entered a state of barehanded combat. Instantly, the wind blew and the clouds moved. Palms swept across the mountains and rivers. The two of them were locked in combat. Back and forth, every punch landed on flesh. Bastard, get your hands off of me. How dare you hit my Shang Shan, you bastard? Go to hell. Su Huaishang, you can do it. The hearts of the viewers were in their throats. They had all heard the conversation between Feng Bujue and Su Huaishang. Therefore, they knew that the latter had activated some kind of powerful skill to last until now. This is too shocking. Hua Xiong was stuttering. The strength and speed of the two contestants have obviously surpassed the limit of their level. They are in the middle of a battle that has broken through the limit. Even though the system camera can follow them closely, our eyes are unable to keep up. Pan Feng added, from the current situation, the two are evenly matched. Even though contestant Feng Bujue has the advantage in terms of power, we can see that contestant Su Huaishang's fighting skill is very good. With her full defense, contestant Feng Bujue is unable to land a fatal attack. Brother Pan, please excuse me, Hua Xiong said. From the conversation between the two contestants, we already know that Su Huaishang's life points appear to be unlimited. Then, is there still a so-called fatal attack? Pan Feng replied, of course there is. Feng Bujue's threat of being torn in half was not a normal threat. He meant what he said literally. You mean, Hua Xiong signaled for his partner to continue. Even if the life points are unlimited, if the head is chopped off, the player will still be considered dead. Pan Feng said, also, if a person's entire body is broken or even dissected from a certain segment of the spine before they finished, Su Huaishang's fans started to cry for their parents. What? He dares to do something like that. Feng Bujue has to die. If you dare do something like that to Shang Shang, I will come to your door and hack you to death. If not for the system's restriction, these people would have cursed him already. I wouldn't have known if I hadn't been hit by that heavens dominating slash. Feng Bujue thought to himself. At my current level, under the war demon status, the more I fight, the stronger I become. Like earlier, after being heavily injured, my demonic nature and energy will increase exponentially. His eyes moved to look at Su Huaishang's eyes. The other party's eyes were filled with tiredness but determination and fighting spirit. After losing your blade, you're still able to fight to this stage. That is praiseworthy. Feng Bujue said, but this is as far as you can go. The moment he said that, his palms flipped and the skill in his hands changed rapidly. With the cover of the black fog, his hands moved rapidly toward the back of his opponent's neck. Su Huaishang seemed to be prepared for this. Her footwork suddenly changed, and her soft body leaned slightly to the side. Then, she morphed into a flash of light and flew right at Feng Bujue. The magic carving? Feng Bujue reacted quickly, and a series of deductions appeared in his mind. If she can use the magic carving, then that means she can use all of Shiro Amikusa's skills. As he thought about this, he turned around to face his opponent, but Su Huaishang's next skill was already waiting for him. Demon Summoning Break? Under Feng Bujue's right foot, a circular black magic circle appeared. A force similar to gravity bound him to the spot, immobilizing him. Su Huaishang had finished her first move, and she started to charge up for the next big skill. A bluish-black ball of energy quickly formed in her hand, and the violent energy was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Feng Bujue knew how powerful this ominous 10-kill circle was. His life points did not allow him to take another attack like this. So he did a crazy thing. The card his hand fell. There was a flash of golden light and blood splattered everywhere. Feng Bujue used Death Poker to chop off his own right leg. At the same time as his right leg was chopped off, his left leg activated Jeppo, and his whole body bounced backward. Descent of the War Demon gave him an endless supply of Do Chi. As long as he had enough mental energy, he could use it at will. Therefore, as he retreated, Feng Bujue had already silently channeled his black Do Chi to heal his broken leg and the wounds on his body. In the blink of an eye, his leg had started to regenerate. Red blood cells, bone marrow, granulation, like the plants in a horror movie, they started to grow back. Su Huaishang did not expect her opponent to come up with this kind of plan. After her sword was broken, she purposely hid Shiro Amikusa's skill and gave Feng Bujue the chance to attack. She relied on her unlimited life points to defend herself. It was not easy for her to find a chance to turn the tables around, but it was broken by her brother Ju. The failure of this ultimate skill caused Su Huaishang to fall into despair. Because the time limit of Soul's Descent was up, she did not have a second chance. The graceful figure fell to the ground. After the skill ended, the impact made her unable to do anything else. She could only lie on her back in the middle of the Colosseum, waiting to be slaughtered. Feng Bujue only needed to aim at Su Huaishang and unleash a Rankyaku to end the match. Unfortunately, Brother Ju had just stabilized himself. His broken leg had just regenerated and the time limit of Descent of the War Demon was up. He used the momentum of his retreat to sit on the ground, and then he lay on his back with his limbs facing the sky. The shopping mall was silent again. The last time the audience was silent, it was because of the shock that this Southern Dipper Flying Dragon Fist and Northern Sky Cross Sparrow had brought to them. Of course, if they knew what would happen next, the scene at that time would be nothing. This time, they were silent because they did not understand. What happened? Who won? Neither of them turned into white light, but they're not moving after a while. Many questions came from the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, after the intense battle, both participants have fallen to the ground. Hua Xiong roared. Looks like this is the last moment of the match. Pan Feng also said in a very nervous tone, who will be able to stand up and deliver the final blow? Suddenly, a hunched figure skipped into the Colosseum. Hiss, 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 hiss. Musashi used his unique accent to laugh and walked to Feng Bujue's side. Boss, I have returned to the promised time. Huh? Ah. Feng Bujue started to laugh madly. Su Huaishang sighed deeply. She understood. It was over. How is that possible? A bitter smile appeared on her charming face. When the scenario started, the order that I gave him was for him to go out for a spin for 20 minutes and return before the time limit of the summon is up. Feng Bujue heard his opponent sigh and replied with a smile. At the time, I naturally did not expect the situation would turn out like this. My thought at the time was, since he was going to disappear sooner or later, he might as well return to show his face before he disappeared. Even if his appearance can only cause a little interference, it's still good. It's better than him disappearing outside the gladiator arena. Huh? Su Huaishang chuckled. I have to hand it to you. Even for a skill that has nothing to do with combat, you managed to come up with the most appropriate plan. She paused for a moment before continuing. A seemingly insignificant detail turned out to be the key to victory. Humph. Fine. I have nothing to say. Thank you. Feng Bujue turned to Musashi and said, Go and give that big sister a kick. Okay. Musashi nodded. He ran to Su Huaishang's side and gave her a light kick on her arm. As the last 1% of Su Huaishang's life points were depleted, Feng Bujue's first battle was declared the winner. After this extremely dangerous battle, Brother Ju had finally advanced to the finals of the tournament for the best. But the real battle had just begun. Chapter 444. Your title has been updated to The Hate Gatherer. This was the first announcement that Feng Bujua heard after he returned to the login lobby. How did this happen? Feng Bujua glanced at his new title with narrowed eyes. His lips twitched, and he felt depressed. I just found out how to use the data, and I immediately lost the ability of the title. Without Descent of the War Demon, I might not have reached that level even if I maxed out my level. He thought about it. Furthermore, without Descent of the War Demon, I would have been in danger in the finals. He opened the menu to check the new title ability. Name: Furnace of Hatred Special Ability Type. Passive effect. Every time you receive an attack, you will recover a certain amount of stamina points and reduce the cooldown of all your skills. The effect is proportional to the degree of injury. The attacker must be hostile toward you. Natural disasters, accidental damage, or self-harm will not trigger this ability. Remark: if you are targeted, it means that you are capable or you are annoying. This, Feng Bujua said, for a player with many active skills, this title ability is indeed a godly skill. He glanced at the skill tab. But I only use 4 skills in battle. Body Enhancement Spell is a skill that consumes a lot of energy, while Jeppo and Renkyaku have no cooldown to begin with. Therefore, only the Flying Dragon Fist of the Southern Dipper can benefit from it. When Brother Jew was thinking about this, he stood in front of the touchscreen. He glanced at the mailbox from the corner of his eyes. He glanced at the skyrocketing number of emails. He did not even need to click on them to know that his blacklist would be greatly expanded at that moment. A communication request popped up. Feng Bujua picked it up and said, "You're done as well?" It was naturally Wang Tanji's voice that came from the other side. Actually, when you and Su Huaishang were posing in the Colosseum, I was already in the market. In other words, you have seen my invincible performance, right? Feng Bujua said shamelessly. What do you mean invincible? Xiaodan complained. You're almost killed, okay? Moreover, he had been repeatedly slapped in the face by others, okay? He said that he would be done in 30 seconds, but in the end he failed. He said that he wanted to tear him apart, but he didn't succeed. In the end, he still had to rely on little Jinsui's existence to win. It feels like he only won by a little bit. Humph. Brother Jew scoffed. You won't understand if you rely on time value to kill 7 kills. How come I've never heard of such strange numbers? You don't even know that. Looks like you're still too ignorant. You'll regret a lot when you're burned at the stake. Yi Zichen said with a smile. Why did the topic suddenly change to me? Moreover, it was completely meaningless. It's just cursing and taunting. Cut the crap. After such a long and continuous battle scene, it's to be expected that the budget would be insufficient. Feng Bujua replied confidently. Every time this happens, the main characters have to shoulder the heavy responsibility of supporting the content of the transitional chapters. What kind of reason is insufficient budget? This is not a cartoon. Xiao Tan roared. Inspiration is also a form of budget, you bastard. Don't underestimate the author. Do you think it's easy to write a battle scene? The author carefully describes it, painstakingly imagines the scene, and painstakingly consults for information. In order to maintain the rhythm, the 15,000-word content is divided into 3 chapters instead of 6 or 7. The result is that the update is too slow. Feng Bujua said, if I were to write it, the battle would usually be condensed into 1 sentence. For example, A smashes B's head with an ashtray. War scenes are usually summarized with sentences like 1,000,000 cavalrymen trample on the 9 states, and 3,000 urban law enforcement officers conquer the world. These sentences have a sense of vicissitudes of life. How can a layman like you understand how difficult it is to use your imagination to create a complex and violent scene? You're blatantly speaking up for the author because you're worried about a certain situation. Xiao Tan said, this kind of nonsense has been going on for 200 words. It should be enough. Hey, by the way, how was your game? Feng Bujue's tone changed, and he asked nonchalantly, you finished so quickly. Don't tell me you were one-shot. That's a bit too fast. Xiao Tan was startled before he replied, Actually, it was me who one-shot someone else. He paused. Let's not talk about me. By the way, do you know what kind of situation you're in now? What kind of situation? Feng Bujue replied in a rather smug tone. It's nothing more than the popularity of the ID Feng Bujue rising to a new height. No, no, no. Those are two different things. Xiaotan cut him off. If you didn't say anything unnecessary during the battle, perhaps that would be the case. But now, the fuel for your fire is not oil, but something similar to methane. Oh, so I've been seen as the bad guy by everyone, right? Feng Bujue asked. It would be more accurate to call you the Demon King. Xiaotan said. Ha! Many of the Demon Kings these days are either male idols or mature ladies. Feng Bujue laughed. But you must be the most traditional kind, like Baal, one of the three demons of Diablo, the evil god of destruction, cruel, powerful, not handsome, not cute, Xiaotan replied. Oh, is that so? Feng Bujue continued in a calm tone. Huh, it doesn't matter. Before the match, I had already predicted this result. So during the match, I played the role of the bad guy until the end, and I did whatever I wanted. If you had not said a word from the start of the match, Xiaotan added. Huh, what's the point of that? Feng Bujue cut him off. That's right. Xiaotan laughed as well. For you, that would be worse than losing, right? While Brother Ju and Xiaotan were chatting, the Dream Company's official website had quietly announced the rules for the tournament for the best. The final would be held at 1 a.m. on the 30th of May. The 50 players who emerged victorious from the Battle of the Butterfly would be transported into the same scenario at the same time. The scenario was naturally a special scenario for the tournament for the best. So far, in any scenario in the game, the maximum number of players that could be accommodated at the same time was 6. This was the first time that 50 players would be placed into the same scenario at the same time. And the competition for this final was... Chapter 445. After the Battle of the Butterfly ended, there were still 5 days until the final. In Thriller Paradise, many things could happen in 5 days. Take Feng Bujue as an example. If he gave it his all, 5 days would be enough for him to reach the top of the level ranking. But currently, his focus was on the title. Even though the new title, Hate Gatherer, was a bit of a prank from the system, the ability that it came with was not bad. The effect of Furnace of Hatred, to put it simply, was to allow the player to use more skills with less exhaustion. With this concept as the core, one could come up with many powerful combinations. Not only would it be used in combat, ranged, defensive, summoning, and even healer players would be able to design a terrifying combination of skills around Furnace of Hatred. With this title, even if the player did not use their brain and added a bunch of active skills that had a cooldown of 5 to 15 minutes, they could become very powerful. For players like Feng Bujue who were good at planning, this title would be like adding wings to a tiger. Compared to the tactic of descent of the war demon, which could not take away the enemy, Brother Ju naturally preferred the current title. From the perspective of the battle royale in the final, the current title was more beneficial. Now, the only thing that Feng Bujue was worried about was that his title would change before the final. Then, no matter how good the combination of skills he came up with, it would be useless. This kind of thing was hard to explain because the change of title in Thriller Paradise was hidden. Even the internal staff of the Dream Company could not provide this data. The change of this ability was completely controlled by the system. Every player, in every scenario that they were in, every word that they said, everything that they did could affect this parameter. For such a complicated calculation, the photon computer would not be able to record the whole process and convert it into visual data to be transferred to human beings. In fact, a normal photon computer would not be able to do this kind of calculation. Only the monster designed by Woody could do that. Of course, even though Feng Bujue was worried, he did not dwell on it. If his title really changed the day before he entered the finals, then there was nothing he could do about it. After all, he could not stop playing scenarios just to maintain his title, right? Brother Ju was a man with a secret mission. Woody's "stop her" sounded casual, but the danger behind it was hard to predict. Therefore, in these 5 days, Feng Bujue had to make good use of every minute of game time to make himself as strong as possible. Feng Bujue had changed his mind ever since he entered the final stage of the tournament for the best. From his point of view, his opponents were not the other 49 players. Instead, there were some other strange things. However, he had no idea what they were. When you're busy, you'll feel that the days pass by very quickly. In the blink of an eye, the day of the final battle had arrived. After these 5 days, Feng Bujue had reached level 43 and was now ranked 5th on the level ranking board. This, no doubt, caused a huge uproar in the game because, theoretically speaking, this was impossible. After level 40, the upper limit of a player's EXP reached 8 digits. At that time, it would take at least 3 days to level up. Take Su Huaishang as an example. She had reached level 43 days before the Battle of the Butterfly, but when she competed with Brother Ju, she was still level 40. After these 5 days, Su Huaishang had only reached level 42, while Brother Ju was level 43. After all, this was not the period where the ranking board changed every day. The level ranking board was the most stable ranking. Among the top 20 players on the level leaderboard, most of them were level 43. Every time the leaderboard was updated, the players would be able to see who had earned more EXP that day based on the changes in the order of the leaderboard, but no one would have thought that in the past few days, someone would appear out of nowhere. Almost every day, people would see this Feng Bujue surpass several players who were ranked above him. This was too strange, and it was impossible for it to go unnoticed. Therefore, many professionals from gaming studios started to study this. Based on their estimation, Feng Bujue could gain at least 20 million EXP in a day. What kind of concept was that? Normally speaking, after level 40, clearing a normal team dungeon with a game time of 4 hours would not give more than 2 million EXP. To gain more EXP, one had to either run into a long scenario or go for nightmare mode. The former depended on luck, and the latter was optional, but came with a great risk. If a player wanted to gain more than 20 million EXP daily, then he had to ensure that he would clear all the scenarios that he participated in. And there was no killing game or solo survival mode on normal difficulty. This kind of thing was only possible in theory. Even Phantom Dawn could not do something like that, because the stronger the player was, the more difficult the scenario would be. The so-called difficulty depended on the player, and it was relative to the player. Other than that, there was the extra reward after clearing the scenario. Normally speaking, out of the 5 embodiment of courage, commendable courage, panicked, scared witless, getting commendable courage was the ideal situation. And the optional extra reward for this level was 10% EXP or 50,000 game coins. It was much weaker than the embodiment of courage that Brother Ju had been given. Of course, there was a reason for that, because embodiment of courage was very, very difficult to get. Even though the standard was not for the player to maintain 0 terror points throughout the scenario, there was a strict requirement for the player's terror points, the highest terror points, and the number of times they were scared. Since the start of the game, countless players had cleared countless scenarios, but the number of people who had received this rating could be counted on one hand. Of these people, only one had received this rating multiple times, and the rest had not received it a second time. Actually, most of the players in Thriller Paradise, including the professional players, were stuck between the phase of commendable courage and panicked witless. The people from Zombie Blade were able to get commendable courage, but they had the aid of medicine, so that was a different story. Fear was a human instinct. Even with systematic training, it could not be completely overcome. Even for the players from a gaming studio, they were professional players and not professional killers, so no one would train them specifically for fear. Therefore, when faced with fear, their reaction would not be that different from a normal player. For players other than Feng Bujue, terror points were a number that would fluctuate. Just entering a dark and depressing environment would cause the terror points to change. To maintain it at 0 throughout the scenario was impossible. It was the same for killing games. Even though the horror element in the scenario had been reduced, the combat between players would still have an effect on the terror points. Be it seeing a slash coming at you face to face, a sniping battle, or an ambush, they would all trigger a reaction of fear. The only difference was the feeling of shock and fear. In conclusion, taking into account all the possible factors, Feng Bujue's score could only be said to be barely reasonable, or, theoretically speaking, there was no problem with it. Under those circumstances, the rumor about him cheating naturally spread like wildfire. Chapter 446. After the match with Su Huaishang, it was obvious what kind of impression the players would have of Feng Bujue. One could say that, within the disgust, there was some fear, and within the disdain, there was some admiration. Needless to say, Su Huaishang's loyal fans and her personal guards, the only thing they wanted to say to Brother Ju the most was, "Eat my beep." And the comment that the players had for Brother Ju was, "This be asterisk starred is very cruel." It was not hard to see that there were very few players who had a good impression of Feng Bujue after the match. His supporters were either sharp-eyed or had bad morals. Under such circumstances, if the ID Feng Bujue suddenly acted strangely on the level ranking, it would definitely attract suspicion. If it was Phantom Dawn or Shiva who was getting 20 to 30 million EXP a day, no one would say anything. With the signboards of order and gods in front of them, anyone who tried to slander them would have to weigh the weight of their words first. However, if the person involved was a player at the level of Flashes of Sword, perhaps there would be a group of people who dared to make wild guesses and comment on it. But Feng Bujue, to put it this way, if he was born in the 60s or 70s, he would have been beaten to death 10 times on the streets. He radiated an aura that said that he would not hesitate to kill him. No matter how one looked at him, he was a bad person. As mentioned earlier, he was banned for volunteering at the community center. If Feng Bujue's sudden increase in level happened before the Battle of the Butterfly, perhaps things would have been better. But now, the people's disgust toward him had formed, and it would turn into prejudice. Under this premise, the truth was not important because people were willing to believe that this Feng Bujue was a cheater. There were many comments on the forum. Other than the meaningless personal attacks, the most popular one was the demand to remove Feng Bujue's qualification and allow Su Huaishang to join the tournament for the best. From the mouths of these people, the fact that Feng Bujue had cheated was confirmed, and now they only needed to discuss how to deal with him. This situation started from the third day after the Battle of the Butterfly and lasted until the 29th of May. The comments did not disappear. If anything, they only got louder. Perhaps as the finals approached, Su Huaishang's supporters became more and more anxious. And Su Huaishang herself had faith in Brother Ju. Actually, for the past few days, she had been trying to talk to Feng Bujue about this, but he did not accept her friend request. She sent him emails, but he did not reply. She could not contact him. There was nothing she could do. Su Huaishang did not respond to her fans. She understood, at a time like this, it was no longer important. Even if she openly said she believed Feng Bujue, it would not be of any help. Perhaps her fans would think that she was too kind and naive, and they would target Feng Bujue even more. Therefore, the people's condemnation of Brother Ju continued Bujue. It was not until the afternoon of the 29th of May that a powerful voice stepped forward to speak up for Feng Bujue. The Dream Company, who had always ignored rumors, finally made a response this time. At 2 p.m. that afternoon, this announcement appeared on the official website. Recently, the rumor of a player obtaining a large amount of EXP through illegal means has been spreading like wildfire on the forums, and the company's customer service department has received a large number of complaints about this. The company hereby announces that this rumor is completely false. The player's source of EXP is legitimate and can be found in the database. Please filter the information rationally and do not fall for the rumors. When Feng Bujue saw this announcement, he instantly knew who was behind it. Even though Brother Ju did not care much about the rumors, this feeling of having a big boss protecting him was not bad, but this announcement also brought up some follow-up questions. People started to think, if Feng Bujue really did not cheat, then wouldn't this man be too scary? There was a limit to the amount of time a player could spend in the game every day, and he was going for 20 to 30 million EXP every day. What kind of efficiency was that? This was simply insane. Of course, they would not have guessed that this kind of efficiency was the result of Brother Ju purposely holding himself back. For the past 5 days, Feng Bujue had been grinding solo survival mode on normal difficulty because this mode had the highest success rate, and for Brother Ju, clearing it meant extra rewards. Every day, he would only receive the EXP reward twice. After that, he would choose the equipment. If the attributes were decent, he would keep it. As for the useless elite-grade items, he would use them to fill the magical disintegrator 0. If it wasn't for his restraint, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for him to become the king of levels in 5 days? 30th of May, 12:54 a.m. The previous announcement solidified Feng Bujue's image as a demon king. Even now, people were still talking about it. On the eve of the final, Feng Bujue became one of the most popular players in the top 50. Second only to Phantom Dawn. In this atmosphere, some of Brother Ju's fans finally bared their fangs a few days ago. Due to the pressure from the public, these people could only hide among the crowd and did not dare admit that they supported Feng Bujue. But now, they were ready to make their move. A group of strange men and women arrived at shopping center number 10. According to rumors, Feng Bujue would often appear at this area. They came from different clubs and wore different outfits, but they were all holding the same banner, and on it was written the word craziest. The crowd who did not know what was going on commented, "You must have been poisoned by playing Ghost Travel," and Feng Bujue himself was in the login lobby. With his dead fish eyes, he pulled on the lever of the magical disintegrator. The machine roared, and the convex lens started to gather light again. He had seen this scene dozens of times, and every time, the white light gathered to form an exuded residue. But Feng Bujue believed in the law of slot machines. I give you one chance, and you give me a pile of holy *T. I give you 10 chances, and you give me 10 slaps. I give you 100 chances, and you have to at least give me some respect for probability. As expected, the heavens rewarded those who worked hard. When Brother Ju filled in the success rate to 63.01%, his horrible luck finally gave him some face as the white light gathered a legendary equipment was born. Chapter 447. What appeared before Feng Bujue was a pair of medium boots. The length of the boots was just enough to cover his ankles, and the material was exquisite black leather. The boots were decorated with a dark pattern. At a glance, it looked like a pair of cloud-headed boots, but upon closer inspection, it was not a curve but a geometric pattern. Item name: Void Treader. Item type: Armor quality: Legendary defense points. Medium element: Isolation special effect: Absorbs all damage caused by falling. The soles of the feet must be on the ground. Can walk or stand on water. Can stand stably in the air for a short period of time. Double the efficiency of stepping. Double the maximum running speed. Increase the effect of skills activated with the legs. Under reasonable circumstances by 30%. Can trample to the level of a spirit. Equip requirement: Sorcery Mastery, General Ability B, Fighting Mastery B. Have cleared at least 5 nightmare scenarios. Cannot be traded after pickup. Remark: everything is fake, and everything is allowed. Even though I've gotten something like the one-shot kill pistol before, this should be the first piece of legendary equipment that truly belongs to me. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Feng Bujue looked at the equipment before him and said, "But this thing is so powerful. This is too much." As he mumbled, he removed the jazz shoes from his feet. At that moment, this piece of equipment that had accompanied him for a long time finally came to an end and was added to the list of items that were about to enter the disintegrator. "Sir Matthews, your will be inherited by my next legendary equipment, so don't worry." Brother Ju used a tone that made up his mind to bid farewell to jazz shoes and temporarily placed it in his storage. Then, he excitedly put on the new equipment. "With this and the skill combination that I've spent the past few days to come up with," Feng Bujue said, "there should be no problem." In his heart, he still did not have 100% confidence. Before the final battle, it was time to take a look at Brother Ju's current stats. Title: Hate Collector. Title ability: Furnace of Hatred Experience, 21000000, 43000, skill, 306, game coins, 1560000. Mastery, general ability B, workmanship C, sleuthing D, fighting B, marksmanship C, medic D, sorcery C, summoning C. Inventory, 10/15 Mario's Wrench, SCP, 500-520, Compound Anti-Gravity Catapult, Miss Moxie's Bad Temper, Belle of Jean Gang, Life Points Recovery Potion, M, X5, Endless Grenade Magazine, WJQ, 308 Military Shovel, Indestructible, Damn Troublesome, Mushroom X1, Deception Pocket Watch, Equipment, Death Poker, Sorcery Weapon, Echo Armor, Artemis's Embrace, Transplanted Alchemy Amplification Device, Void Tread, Phantom Madam's Caress. Storage, 2 out of 10 Jazz Dance, Puzzle Card, Strawberry Skills Column, 1/12 Not So Hasty Repair Spiritual Body Enhancement Technique Alchemist Persistent Southern Dipper Flying Dragon Fist Summon Musashi Jippen Kakusen Storm Demon King's Flame Purgatory Tri-Cannon Summon Ma. Son, it was not hard to see that in these 5 days, Brother Jew's combat ability had reached a new height. Of course, that was to be expected. The change in attitude was the key. When he treated this game as a serious business, he had the ability to do so. The description of the new items and skills will be listed later in the article, so there was no need to go into detail here. The 300-plus skill points that Fong Bujue had were the leftover after spending a lot of money. He had visited the Thriller box many times over the past few days, and he had spent more than 30,000 skill points. He had spent quite a lot of game coins, but most of them were from the auction house. As for the use of them, well, everyone knew. In terms of mastery, when Fong Bujue reached level 40, his general mastery jumped to level B along with his level. His marksmanship mastery also rose to level C in a later scenario, and the mastery that increased the most should be his summoning mastery. After the competition on the 25th of May, the 4 members of Underworld Frontline went to queue up for a scenario. It was a long scenario, so Fong Bujue successfully completed the mission that required him to use summoning skills and summon creatures 50 times. After he returned to the login lobby, the system announced that he had completed the first part of the mission, and the second part was, all summoned creatures have used their skills 1,000 times. Current progress, 01000. The reward for the first part of the mission was the level D summoning skill, Summon Ma Sunday. In terms of items and skills, Brother Jew's usual flashlight had been combined with the anti-gravity gun, and that was the current compound anti-gravity gun. In a ukiyo-e-style adventure scenario, Brother Jew obtained a mushroom that could remove many negative statuses, the shitty shroom. In a wuxia-style adventure scenario, Brother Jew used the stool of the 18 bronze statues, number 5, to exchange for a kung fu called Sandstorm. Through the special effect of the Belle Jean Gang, he was able to identify that one of the NPCs was actually one of the 18 bronze statues who had returned to the secular world, so he made the trade. In a Tomb Raider-style adventure scenario, Brother Jew obtained the Deceitful Pocket Watch. Other than these items obtained from the scenario, Phantom Madam's Caress was a pair of gloves that Fong Bujue combined from the original puzzle card, Monkey, and another puzzle card that he had obtained. The 2 active skills, Hellfire and Tri-Beam, came from the Thriller box. In conclusion, the current Fong Bujue was very strong. If the Dream Company listed out the data of all 50 participants in the tournament for the best and published a poll on the official website for the players to decide who was the strongest, then Fong Bujue would definitely be in the top 5. Even so, Fong Bujue still had a pessimistic attitude toward the finals. He was such a person, a loyal follower of Murphy's Law. He would always prepare for the worst. As the saying goes, counter soldiers with arms and water with an earth weir. When the time comes, the way lies in man. In the limited time that he had, Fong Bujue had leveled up his character to the max, and he had used all the resources that he could. The rest of the matter could only depend on that unpredictable yet difficult to defy fate. Chapter 448. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting in the game on time. I am the commentator, Xiong. I am the commentator, Pan Feng. That night, the two of them made an appearance for the first time. At 12:58 a.m., the faces of the two GMs appeared on the main screen of the shopping mall. The two of them sat side by side behind a table as if they were anchoring the news. Their appearances were different from how Feng Bujue had seen them in the scenario. They had changed into formal suits. If they had chosen to appear in the style of ancient generals, the scene would have been quite comical. Half a month has passed just like that, Xiong said. Yes, it feels like we just gotten used to the commentating job, and it's going to end soon, Pan Feng added. Both of them laughed, and Xiong said, back to the topic for today's finals. Since it will be in the form of a free-for-all, the way it will be broadcasted will be different. Pan Feng said, today, the two of us are very relaxed. After the competition starts, you won't be able to hear us anymore. He said mysteriously, the actual reason is temporarily a secret. You will find out soon. Xiong said, to prevent the viewers from missing out on the content that they want to see, we will now briefly explain the way the live stream will be. As he spoke, the image on the main screen changed to something that looked like a PowerPoint slide. The way the finals will be broadcasted is with the battle as the focus. In other words, where there is no battle, we will not be able to see what the players are doing. Therefore, after the competition starts, the main screen will first show the basic situation of the various parts of the scenario, and then it will use subtitles to describe the scenario's worldview and other information. Until a player enters the battle, then the image will change. Pan Feng continued. Next is the main point, which is the rules of the live stream when multiple battles happen at the same time. He paused, and the slide on the screen changed. As everyone knows, the market is a multidimensional space, and it contains several regions. Today, starting at 1 o'clock in the morning, we will make adjustments to the names of the phase regions. At that time, when you return to the login space and open the selection menu in the market area, you won't see options like Area 1 or Area 2, but options like Contestant A's Broadcast Area 1, Contestant A's Broadcast Area 2, or Contestant B's Broadcast Area 1. Xiong continued, whichever player you'd like to watch, please enter his or her exclusive broadcast area. If you want to join a group of people in a certain area, you could discuss the numbering beforehand. Pan Feng said, every contestant has priority broadcasting rights in their own broadcast area. When he or she is not in combat, the main screen in that area will show the other duels in the scenario, but once he or she enters combat mode, the screen will switch to him or her. If you don't have any particular contestants that you're interested in, Xiong continued, you can also choose random broadcast area 1, 2, 3, and so on in the login lobby. The broadcast screen, there is arranged by the system according to time, and it will show a relatively complete battle. In other words, after a battle ends, the screen will switch to another location where a battle is taking place until the battle ends. Pan Feng concluded, of course, you can still watch the competition from the login lobby or the conference room. In your private space, you can freely change the priority of the broadcast, just like changing the channel on your television. Furthermore, the commentary for this finals will not be affected by these factors. The commentary will be synchronized with the screen. Therefore, if you watch it outside the market, the difference will be that the screen will be smaller and the surroundings will be quieter. Before the two of them finished their introductions, the gamers in the shopping mall had already rushed towards the elevator. Be it those who wanted to watch the competition from the broadcast area or the conference room, they had to go to the login lobby to switch. Actually, there was no need for the players to be in such a hurry. The map for this finals was huge, and it was impossible for a battle to start right from the start. If they went there early, they would just stand before the screen to enjoy the scenery. Midnight, 1 a.m. The 50 top players of Thriller Paradise were all standing in the login lobby, ready to go. At that moment, no one dared to say that they were not nervous. Even Brother Jew could not help but pace back and forth in the elevator. He hummed the song of the hero, and his footsteps matched the rhythm of the song to ease the tension. The excitement of the players was indescribable. The tournament for the best is about to start. Your data will be downloaded in 30 seconds. Please do not leave the login lobby. 10 seconds before the download. 9, 8, 7, 2, 1. After the countdown ended, there was no opening speech or teleportation, but the elevator started to move. Download complete. You are currently playing the tournament for the best. This mode provides a scenario introduction. There are no hidden side quests or special world building. Reward for winning the scenario. The scenario introduction will be played soon. The game will start immediately after. The elevator was still moving, and the scenario introduction was cut in. 9 heads of spirit clouds descend. The rain of blood is coming. Time and cause are in the palm of one's hand. Who will judge the good and evil of the worlds? Hey. They're using a poem to start the game. The standard aside, why do these few lines remind me of something bad? This place was originally a modern and prosperous city. Like all the major cities in the world, it was filled with skyscrapers, traffic, an overloaded population, and polluted air. Until one night, the sun set and never rose again. Behind the drifting dark clouds, the dim moonlight shines on this dead and lonely city. Hey, these 2 lines sound so familiar. I think I've heard them somewhere before. A fallen one by the name of Sam Montier took over this city and massacred all the humans in the city. He wiped this place out of the river of time and turned it into an alternate dimension that drifted outside of the fixed space. The Master of Time discovered Sam Montier's actions and imprisoned him, but this piece of land could no longer be restored to its original state. The twisted space and time released a large amount of energy. The dead souls who had nowhere to go wandered around the city. The cursed land gave birth to many sinful creatures. They consumed each other, killed each other, and regenerated. The cycle was endless. Many years later, the ruler of the scorched land saw this piece of land that he had not touched through the gap of a demonic door. The king of the kingdom of death spirits found his subjects here. As the ruler of the river of order and Sam Montier's previous master, the Master of Time saw this place as his territory. As the arbiter of all, the court of truth observed from the dark. That was the end of the scenario introduction. The next second, the elevator stopped. Regardless of whether Feng Bujue was willing or not, the door opened on its own. Brother Ju should be inside a large building. A long time ago, the decoration of this place would have been quite good. But now, the walls and floor no longer had their original colors and materials. Everywhere was covered with a layer of gray dirt, mixed with some brown. There were many small cracks on the tiles and walls. Upon closer inspection, one could see something that looked like blood vessels in these cracks, and these things were clearly wriggling. There were piles of black skeletons in the corners and on the ground. Most of them only had their skeletons left, and only a few had something that looked like organs left. No matter how one looked at it, these did not look like human skeletons. The color aside, the number and structure of the bones were different. The skulls of these skeletons were similar to human skulls, but some had horns, some had no nostrils, and some had fangs. In conclusion, the environment of this scenario was enough to make a normal person's hair stand on end. Of course, Feng Bujue would not feel that way. At most, he would feel a bit disgusted. Speaking of disgusting, there was something else that had to be mentioned. As soon as the elevator door opened, a disgusting smell assaulted their nostrils. Even though Brother Ju quickly covered his nose, it was too late. What the F***CK? This smell is too strong. Is this the smell of a skunk that grew up eating durian and swallowing feces to commit suicide? He complained as he walked out of the elevator. The moment he stepped out, the system announcement said, "Main quest triggered." Feng Bujue opened the game menu. He expected to see the quest become the only surviving player in the scenario. This was because the rules of this match were basically the same as the Battle for the Cape. The only difference was that the number of players had increased from 6 to 50. However, to Brother Ju's surprise, the quest this time was kill other players to gain points. The word points was highlighted. When he shifted his attention to it, an annotation window popped up in the menu. The details of the mission were written in it. For every other player you kill, you will receive 2 points. Killing a seated player will receive 3 points. For a kill completed with the cooperation of multiple players, 1 or more players can be killed. The points will be distributed according to the system's discretion. For a kill completed with the help of the forces in this world, you will receive 1 point. When there are only 2 players left in the scenario, no matter what method is used to kill the other, you will gain 5 points. At the bottom of the description, there was a simpler rule. When there is only 1 player left in the scenario, the tournament for the best will end, and the system will announce the accumulated points and the final ranking. Chapter 449. Just as the 50 players entered the scenario, inside the city, on a street, a manhole that was infested with rotten things suddenly loosened. Then, a white powdery substance rose from the ground. The bone sand was initially flowing, but it soon turned into a real geyser. In less than a few seconds, the manhole was pushed open, and a pillar of sand shot up into the sky. It looked like it was raining sand within a radius of 10 meters. Wherever the sand touched, shadows of ghosts appeared. It did not take long for the shadows to materialize into 9 strange living, dead creatures. This is indeed a land of death. A large skull that was wrapped in strange fire floated in the air and mumbled. Its name was Seizing Soul, and its level was only lower than the 4 pillars of divinity. Besides Seizing Soul, there were 8 other strange shadows. The cursed spirit was a Latino male. He was tall and muscular, wearing a brown robe with a hood. His appearance was no different from an ordinary human being. The only difference was that he had no pupils in his eyes. His eyes were like amber, sparkling with a dim light. War Spirit, a human female. She was about 3 meters tall and was covered in solid biological scales. She had a pair of dragon wings on her back. Banished Demon, a strange vine that looked like it was made of flesh. It was entangled in knots, and its limbs were hard to distinguish. Its head was a large ball of flesh with no nose or ears. Its eyes were 2 large compound eyes. It had a bloody mouth, and 2 rows of sharp teeth poked out from its mouth. Formless Demon, in its current state, was a floating black stone. It was about 3 cubic meters in size and had a texture similar to crystal. It had an irregular shape, and the surface of the stone was decorated with grayish-white patterns. Bloodthirsty Demon, 8 meters tall, had a green face and fangs. Its upper body had 3 heads and 6 arms, and its lower body was shaped like a snake's tail. Its whole body was covered in a ruby-like carapace armor, and its whole body glowed a bright red. The Repentant, a brown-haired woman about 30 years old. She wore tight, leather armor. Every inch of her exposed skin was covered in stitches, and her eyes and mouth were sewn shut by steel wires. The Decapitator was a white woman in her 20s. She had red hair and a tall and fit figure. She wore soft armor. Her face and right arm were covered in a metal-like bone armor. The Observer was a 4-meter-tall male giant. He had perfect muscle armor like a giant god. His skin was blue, and his long white hair was tied into a bundle behind his back, like the tail of a giant beast. These 9 strange monsters were the subordinates of the King of the Abyss, the 9 undead spirits. There were wandering dead souls everywhere. The Repentant spoke in a hoarse and weak voice. Her eyes were sewn shut, but it did not seem to affect her vision. There are millions of them. There are other things, a bunch of filthy things. The Observer continued with a deep, deep voice. Do you want to eliminate them? Decapitation asked immediately. Don't worry, Soul Snatcher said in the tone of a leader. There are still some strange things here. Cursed Spirit then said, They are travelers from another dimension, right? His eyes glowed. I have never seen so many travelers from another dimension appear at the same place. Since they're all trash, we could just get rid of them all, Bloodthirsty said darkly. While they were talking, suddenly, in the night sky above their heads, a strange white line appeared without any warning. Around the line, there were shadows of data streams surging. Several seconds later, the white line was pushed open, and an arm reached out from it. Then, a person's head popped out. then entire torso squeezed out. Finally, a vigorous figure dashed out of the crack and fell from the sky, landing right in the middle of the 9 demons and ghosts. This uninvited guest was a woman. She was nearly 9 meters tall, and her hair was green in color. She was one of the anomalies of origin, and her name was L2 Balon. At that moment, Ma Inlan was using her cold gaze to scan the 9 monsters around her. In her eyes, she could only see groups of flowing, glowing numbers. As an extension of the program, she could directly analyze these numbers, data recognition, firewall breached, downloading data, initiating countermeasure, external recognition database activated, downloading, writing correction, writing, name, Soul Snatcher Organization, King of the Nether Abyss Race, undead level, height, 0 to 139 cm weight, combat style, skills, danger level, medium speech recognition, established, current location, Y012, tracking location, unable to activate, control status, out of control, tactical control option, calculating in Ma Inlan's tactical interface. That was what she saw. Since she was still level 2, she could not fully analyze the enemy's information. Part of the information could only be unlocked through actual combat or intelligence gathering. What are you? The observer spoke again. He spoke slowly, and his tone was clumsy. You don't have the presence of a living being or the characteristics of an undead. The war spirit took half a step forward. Interesting. Are you an enemy? If so, that would be great. Can you explain your purpose of coming here? As the highest level of the 9 leaders, Soul Snatcher naturally had the highest intelligence. Furthermore, he knew about the existence of the anomalies, so he posed a rather constructive question. Ma Inlan's analysis of the 9 undead had already been completed before the observer finished his question. She merely replied coldly, "My mission has no conflict of interest with yours. My superior is not interested in this land either. As long as you do not interfere with my mission, we will all be fine." Soul Snatcher paused before continuing. "Looks like your target is the traveler from another dimension. Curiosity is not good for you," Ma Inlan replied. Her 2 answers did not provide any real information, but she did not turn on the enemy either. After all, she was facing 9 sets of unique data alone. If they really got into a fight, she would have no choice but to run. "Let me cut her down." The decapitator chimed in eagerly. "No," Soul Snatcher said. After a pause, he added, "Let's go. What did you say?" The other 8 chiefs were all puzzled if they had faces. "Save your breath," Soul Snatcher said sternly. As the leader, he had a certain level of authority. Once he said that, the other spirits fell silent. "Let's split up and clear out the trash in the city." Several seconds later, Soul Snatcher said, "But try to avoid the traveler from another dimension and..." He looked at L2 Ma Inlan. "Creatures similar to her." Chapter 450. Feng Bujiwe did not stay too long at the first building because the system notification at the start of the scenario had clearly stated that even though there would be a plot introduction, there would be no side or hidden quest or special worldview, so there was no need for him to do anything too detailed. Considering that he was a seeded player with 3 kill points and might become the target of other players, Brother Jew decided to keep a low profile. As long as he was not judged to be playing AFK-like, he would try his best to avoid conflict and preserve his strength. After all, he had other missions to fulfill. The more I think about it, the more unsettled I feel. Feng Bujiwe walked out of the building and mumbled to himself, "The monsters that wander this city. Compared to the last time I was here, the number and quality of the monsters must have greatly increased. And that is not all. But the key is the mention of the 4 pillars of divinity in the introduction. That is a very bad situation." His worry was not unfounded because in the Toy Wars, the Prophet had pointed out that Feng Bujiwe had helped Billy and the rest escape from prison. This meant that this was no longer secret. But what Feng Bujiwe did not understand was, when he helped Billy, Aldan, and Ravid escape from prison, he had already silenced the jailer, Faust, and so on. Theoretically speaking, The information should not have been leaked. But now that the information had been leaked, he had to reconsider his position. First, there was the Master of Time. Brother Jew had indeed helped this 4 pillars of divinity. Now that he thought about it, it was the Master of Time who had saved Feng Bujue and the rest. He had helped him capture Samontier. But later, Feng Bujue betrayed the Master of Time and released the 3 prisoners imprisoned by the Master of Time and even killed the prison guard. Comparing the two, Brother Jew's actions were not enough to cover his mistakes. Secondly, at the Court of Truth, Feng Bujue believed that at a place like the Court of Truth, where spreading chaos was a crime, he would not be welcomed. If he was a creature born in this dimension, he would have been captured and sentenced to 5,000 years. Therefore, his reputation in the Court of Truth was undoubtedly an innate hatred, and there was no way to reverse it. As for the remaining 2 forces, it was obvious from their names that they were the evil side. Of course, Brother Jew did not mind this. He was also regarded as a devil by other players, so there was nothing wrong with joining the evil side. However, he felt that it would be difficult. For example, the leader of the demons. Even though Brother Jew had not met the leader of the demons in person, he was familiar with the way his subordinates worked. Basically, the creatures from the scorched earth were best at violence. Even if you tried to communicate with them, it was pointless. No matter what you said as an opening, like hello, their answer would be a roar, and then they would shout their name in the third person and charge at you to attack you. Hulk, 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 smash. Therefore, Feng Bujue did not have many choices. If he wanted to borrow the power of the NPCs in this scenario, he would have to deal with the people from the Kingdom of the Dead. Even though Brother Jew was not familiar with this force, at least they had not offended each other in the past, so there was still a chance of negotiation. Wow, this is quite impressive. Feng Bujue soon walked to the entrance of the building and saw what was outside. The buildings, public facilities, and even the cars by the road were all covered by a layer of something that looked like flesh but was not flesh at the same time. Large cracks and collapsed slopes could be seen everywhere on the road. Some places had thorns that were as thick as anacondas, and others had small hills of obsidian crystals. Compared to inside the building, the smell outside was more layered. In other words, inside the building, there was a concentrated, uniform, and heavy stench. Outside the building, there were multiple, rich, and complex smells. If you stood at a crossroad and faced different directions, you would be able to smell several different smells: sulfur, methane, gas, blood, feces, and so on. When I was at a low level, just being in this kind of environment would cause my life points to drop. Feng Bujue mumbled. I'm starting to miss the gas mask. However, since they were outside, in terms of smell, it should be better than inside. At least Feng Bujue did not need to cover his nose with his hand anymore. Where should I go? Feng Bujue looked around and was thinking when suddenly, inside the maze, there is no way to avoid a deadly battle. The growl of a monster exudes a murderous aura that cannot be hidden. 2 sentences in Hokkien were suddenly cut in, and they echoed in Brother Jew's ears. Not only him, everyone who was paying attention to Feng Bujue heard it as well. That's right, the commentary for this finals was provided by the system, and it had the style of a thunderbolt. At the location of every battle, there would be a corresponding narration, and the audience could even see the subtitles. Feng Bujue was startled. So, this can be done even when we're not inside the world of Thunderbolt. After his duel with Blade Runner, he had not encountered the world of Thunderbolt before, and he had not heard this kind of commentary in other scenarios, so he was surprised to hear it here. Since the narration says so, then it means that things are already in progress. Feng Bujue reacted quickly, and he immediately went on alert. Indeed, there were 3 monsters that were active nearby, and they had already discovered Brother Jew's presence, and their location was on the roof of the building behind Feng Bujue. When the narration started, it was the signal for the battle to start. Even though this was not a battle between players, the system would still broadcast it. Therefore, before leaving the battle, Brother Jew's actions would continue to be broadcasted, and it would be accompanied by narration. At that moment, the three monsters moved. With a strange roar, the three monsters jumped down at the same time. Feng Bujue chuckled coldly when he heard that. He leaped up from the ground and charged upward. He was not afraid of the monsters that were looking down on him, and he did not think that the three wandering monsters would be that strong. He only wanted to end this as soon as possible. In midair, with the help of the blurry moonlight, Brother Ju finally got a good look at the three things. The first was like a child, and its limbs were short and small, but there was a pair of large pincers between its ribs, and the surface of the pincers reflected the cold light of metal. The second was like a net, and its body was about the size of a door. It was hollow in the middle, and part of its body was separated from its body like a saw. That should be its weapon. The third was like an insect, but its body was asymmetrical. One side had many legs, and the other side had wings. On the side with wings, there was a long and narrow antenna that looked like a sickle. What are these monsters? Feng Bujue mumbled to himself. They look too strange. I can't even tell where their weakness is. Feng Bujue, use 30% of your power to face the enemy. The three monsters have a tacit understanding with each other. Sickle, cut off the left arm. Saw, shock the shoulder blade. Pincers, go for the eyes. At this point, Brother Ju was already inches away from the three monsters. He did not hold back and used his skill first. Name: Wicked King's Inferno Scorch skill card property. Active, permanent skill type. Sorcery effect. Unleash a combo of fists wrapped in fire. Cooldown of 5 minutes. Consumption: 200 stamina points. 50 sorcery points learning requirement. Fighting C, Sorcery Serum Mark. One of the ultimate skills of Wicked King's Inferno Scorch. The skill's cooldown was not long, and the consumption was economical. In terms of power, even though it was not as powerful as Flying Dragon Fist, it could hit a spirit directly. As a very valuable skill, it was picked out by Feng Bujue from the thriller box. A moment of silence is the sign of a storm. With a sudden roar, the battle begins. Feng Bujue's chi and movement as one, punching out with both fists, instantly filling the sky with shadows of fists. Fists burn, fire rely on spirit. Even though the three monsters have the advantage in numbers, they are meaningless before the difference in power. When Feng Bujue heard that, he calmed down. At that moment, his fists landed right before the three monsters. However, a trapped beast will fight. How can it be defeated? What the F***CK? Feng Bujue felt like he had been toyed with by the narration, and his relaxed nerves tensed up again. The three monsters were indeed not killed by the skill. They were only injured and stopped, and they groaned in pain. Then, like a cornered dog jumping over a wall, they pounced again. Moreover, their claws were covered with a layer of heterochromatic energy, increasing the range. A desperate charge, and in the moment of danger, Feng Bujue saw the opportunity. Feng Bujue suddenly saw the opportunity. He turned his body around, and with a step, he flew to the side. In an instant, he raised his head proudly and used 80% of his strength and anger to activate his ultimate move. Didn't I just use Jeppo to jump horizontally and then use Rankyaku? Brother Bujue complained internally. You don't have to make it sound like I've used some kind of ultimate skill. A blue light shot out, and it was enough to make one's face pale. This time, the three monsters that had been beaten into a near-death state by Wicked King's Inferno Scorch were finished. The battle ended in a flash. After 2 attacks from Feng Bujue, the three monsters fell one after another. About 5 seconds after this voiceover, the system screen switched to another location, because the battle had already broken away. Ha! Ha ha! After Feng Bujue landed on the ground, he laughed drily. Hey, if you do something like this, you can talk about a fight between children like the sword duel at Mount Hua, right? When a child is pulling another child, you can talk about it as a gust of wind from the palm strike, and there's an endless supply of dark energy. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.